This video is not a joke. Before we get started, I'd like to warn you all that this video contains mentions of suicide, self-harming, mental, verbal, and emotional abuse, domestic violence, sexual harassment, homophobia, transphobia, racism, ableism, and bullying, among many other things. If you are squeamish, uncomfortable, sensitive to, or just generally have an aversion to this type of subject matter, then who am I kidding? I'm making it mandatory for you to watch this. Why? Because for too long have people been blatantly refusing to listen to my side of the story and instead choosing to side with the abuser. For too long have people been blatantly choosing to downplay all of the abuse that I went through for an entire year and a half. So now, it's my turn to speak out. It is currently December 2nd, 2024 as of the date I am recording this part of the video. The reason why I'm making this video is to set the record straight. I will be documenting the history of constant abuse, manipulation, torment, pain, and suffering that I've had to endure during a 1.25 year long relationship that I was in. I want everyone watching this video to know that during every single situation that went down between me and my ex-partner, I was the victim, not him. During the relationship, I have taken time out of my daily schedule, including taking time away from my family and my college education, to accommodate his needs. I have been there to defend him. I have been there to support him, mentally, emotionally, and financially. I have fought his battles for him on many occasions. I have been kind. I have been understanding. I have been patient. I have been tolerant. I have been lenient, and I have been calm. However, he has repeated the same pattern of behavior over and over and over again, even after I gave him ample time and opportunity to improve and change his behavior. Much to the chagrin of my friends and family, I have given him the benefit of doubt multiple times, and I gave him chance after chance after chance, only to find out that he would continue to go right back to doing what he was doing before. He has handed out apologies for his actions multiple times ad nauseum, none of which were actually sincere. He has taken advantage of my generosity and forgiveness and mistook my kindness for weakness. What started out as a random series of events where he unjustifiably took his anger out on me and my friends over minor things devolved into something much, much more sinister. From getting angry at me for wanting my boundaries to be respected, to being extremely possessive by policing and dictating who I can and can't be friends with, to wanting me to completely sacrifice my integrity just for the sake of appeasing him and making him happy. This entire relationship was nothing short of an absolute horror show. What he fails to understand is that the impact his actions have had on not only me, but everyone else in my social circle was detrimental. Extremely detrimental. Especially as it pertains to the current state of my mental health. He has demonstrated a blatant lack of self-awareness, accountability, guilt, and remorse for any of his actions. What exactly did he do, you might ask? Let's jump right in because you're about to find out right now. My ex-partner, who is the subject of today's video, is a 22-year-old trans/non-binary male who, just like me, has many names, but he primarily identifies under the name of Blake Romano, or simply Blake. Blake Romano, also known by his many other aliases, including Bunny, Sammy, Symphony, to opposite my identity as Rhapsody, Sleepy Shells, Squishy Pobs, Shiny Charmoo, Twinkie Cunt Boy, Koi Kitties, Twisted Angelix, Takara Pony, and Meow Meow World, among many others, born January 4th, 2002, is a Pokemon fanatic, MLP fanatic, and collector, and nostalgic film/gaming/anime/cartoon enthusiast from Salem, Missouri, United States. He, just like me, is also on the autism spectrum. However, in addition to his autism diagnosis, he has also been diagnosed with BPD, depression, and anxiety, none of which excuse any of his actions, which I will discuss further as this video progresses. I met him on June 15th, 2023, when I returned to my friend Gemma Conda's, or Blue Ruby's, Cosmic Table server on Discord, which is now known as the Azura Republic, the successor to his former flagship server, the Conda Casa. I returned a year after I was wrongfully ousted from the community in 2022 thanks to the whole Rosina head debacle, which I covered in a video from last year in January. Blake and I didn't start dating each other until 2 days later. We were in a talking stage for 2 days and we were still getting to know each other. The relationship that I was in with Blake, just like the one that Gemma Conda was in, was a polyamorous relationship with consenting partners. Gemma Conda had been in a relationship with him since Christmas Day of 2022. While I returned to the Cosmic Table on June 15th, Blake didn't officially become a part of the community until a week earlier. And even back then, he was still, by definition, an outsider who knew nothing about how the community's culture works. Blake and I had fun with each other during the first stage of our relationship. We would often joke around with each other, we'd engage in conversation with each other constantly, and things were going seemingly well. However, over time, I would start to witness the cracks slowly forming within our relationship. And that's where the next chapter of our story begins. Around July 2023, I was on the phone with Blake one night only to discover that he was in the psych ward. As a former psych ward patient myself, I sympathized with him since he felt lonely there like how I did. As someone who has separation anxiety, I know exactly how it feels to be away from home, away from your loved ones, especially for a prolonged period of time. I can relate to what he went through because I experienced it myself 3 years ago. However, what I didn't appreciate was that during that phone call, he took his annoyance and frustration out on me. He apologized the next day after we talked and that was that, but before that, there was another incident that took place in my old flagship server, Shadow Chord, which has now been replaced by my new flagship server, the Rhapsody Republic, as of July 2024. The incident took place on the afternoon of June 30th, 2023, the final day of Pride Month. I shared a news article about how the government was taking action to discriminate against LGBTQIA+ people, as per usual, given the fact that MAGA Republicans are running the fucking thing, which unsurprisingly sparked debate. The article itself stated, and I quote, "In a 6-3 vote, the Supreme Court has officially ruled that businesses have the right to discriminate against LGBTQ+ Americans." However, what started out as a simple debate evolved into chaos. And this all went down on a day when I was going out grocery shopping with my brother and my mom. It all started when a friend of mine, whose name I'm not going to publicize for their protection and safety, said that he didn't believe in non-binary people. Now, I knew this guy for 4 years. He's not a homophobe or transphobe by any means, as he keeps LGBT people in his social circle just like how I do. His opinion was, albeit controversial, misguided and poorly educated. Not everyone knows about the various sexual orientations and gender identities all across the spectrum of sexuality. However, Blake, as you would expect, did not take this well. TLDR, a whole lot of fighting went down and we had Blake telling him to kill himself, which really isn't going to get you anywhere in an argument. It ended with someone leaving the server during the fighting. He hadn't returned since, despite multiple attempts to get him to return after the fighting ended. And it ended with someone getting banned from the server without my authorization. I was very angry and disappointed in everyone involved, including Blake. I imposed strict zero tolerance policies on the rules of the server shortly after. I keep telling people, please don't be the reason why a rule has to be added to the server. Obviously, people don't fucking listen to me. A while later, Blake did return to the server because he, in his own words, said that he, quote, didn't feel like holding a grudge anymore. That would later turn out to be a complete lie. Not much else happened during July or early August, but something did happen at the end of August. Let's get into that part, shall we? On August 29th, 2023, Blake, who is an AFAB, which is an acronym for Assigned Female at Birth person, came out as a transgender male. Reactions from people were very mixed as it was an unexpected bombshell announcement from him. Now, I'm a very socially progressive person, albeit with a few conservative views. And I have absolutely nothing against trans people, let alone non-binary people. I congratulated him for coming out. However, I did have only one issue. I'm a person who is only sexually attracted to people of the opposite sex. I wouldn't have a problem being romantically attracted to people of the same sex, but sexual attraction to other males is absolutely out of the question. It's just what my preferences and boundaries are. But when you see some of these pictures here, you might be thinking otherwise. At this point, I'm just left questioning what I am anymore. I'm quite happy being a cisgendered male, and I don't plan on changing from male to female, ever. But when it comes to romantic attraction, I don't know what I am anymore. At this point, I'm the Q in LGBTQIA+. But this isn't about me. This is about Blake. I explicitly stated what my preferences and boundaries were with him. However, the following day, as expected, Blake obviously did not take this well either. Blake is a self-described hypersexual person who has a massive libido and sex drive. I was hardly ever sexual during that relationship, especially since their tendency to snap over stupid shit was a major turnoff for me. That afternoon, he went ahead and decided to start a fight with me out of nowhere, where he pretty much tried to make me feel like shit for having preferences and boundaries and for wanting them to be respected. The images you are seeing right now pretty much show him constantly guilt-tripping me and trying to indirectly accuse me of being a transphobe. But here's the thing. Telling a female to male trans person that you're not sexually attracted to them because they're a man and you're not gay is the least transphobic thing you can do, because you're literally validating and acknowledging their gender identity. And for the record, when he was saying all this, he made it sound like he was forcing me to engage in sexual activity with him against my will, so yeah, I guess it's safe to add sexual harassment to his rap sheet. However, right now, you're gonna see the screenshot that genuinely pissed me off. This screenshot is a clear-cut and dried example of what I'm doing is wrong, I know it's wrong, but I'm doing it anyway. If that is not an egregious example of cognitive dissonance, then I really don't know what the fuck is. You gave a half-assed apology here and went right back to being a fucking bitch within a few seconds. That face you were making right there is your signature trademark face of evil. You knew exactly what you were doing. You make me want to sock you right in the fucking mouth sometimes. And then there's also this. Look, I get that you want to have kids in the future and you want to continue your bloodline and your legacy. Or rather, so-called legacy, I should say. But here's the thing. Even if you did want to have kids with me specifically, you'd be just as abusive to them as you were to me. Another thing I regret about this situation is the fact that I positively responded to the idea of Blake wanting to have kids with me. Because I said at one point, and I quote, "I won't lie, it would be fun for us to have kids one day." Jesus H. Christ, how wrong I was. Either way, you can still see how completely selfish that Blake is being within these pictures. Absolutely disregarding everyone else's personal boundaries and thinking about their own selfish desires. And then there's also this, where he says, "I have a female body, what is the issue? Regardless, you still identify as a trans male, therefore I chose to respect and acknowledge your gender identity. Trans men are men and trans women are women. There is no question about it. Just because you're AFAB doesn't change the fact that you're still a man. Especially since you came out as a trans male." This next part you're seeing here is a special kind of exasperating. Because he's like, "But then again, you never speak to me regularly, so maybe the romantic aspect isn't there either." Dude, did you ever stop to consider that the reason why I barely even spoke to you anymore was because you were behaving like this? You made me uncomfortable on several occasions, and you put me in a situation where I was unable to stand up for myself, because if I did speak up and tell you the truth, you'd still throw a hissy fit about it on the account that you are incapable of taking any semblance of accountability or responsibility for your actions. Also, God forbid I have other important priorities in my life to take care of too, right? This next screenshot that you're seeing here pretty much proved that the argument was going absolutely nowhere, because he kept defecting and pivoting to pointless non sequiturs that had nothing to do with the main topic. Like, why are you bringing the June 30th, 2023 incident when it had absolutely nothing to fucking do with the topic at hand? And this part you're seeing here couldn't be any more blatant, where he says that anyone who makes fun of LGBT people in that way deserves to get harassed. Congratulations, you're literally proving my point, which I'll delve further into later. Right now you're seeing the screenshots where I've had to explain myself in full detail. It gets annoying after multiple times where you have to explain yourself over and over and over again, because they claim to get it at first, but clearly they don't, because they've had a track record of repeating this pattern of behavior constantly. Again, this isn't the first time I've had to explain things to him. He claims to understand at first, but clearly he doesn't, because eventually he'll go right back to doing what he was doing. Things seemed to calm down after that incident, or so I thought. There were no fights between us in September or October, but on November 24th, the day after a good Thanksgiving with my family, he decided to get into another pointless argument with me on fucking Twitter of all places. The fight started after I QRT'd someone making hateful statements about plus size people, but that wasn't the reason. The reason why is all because I said that the correct term for what people call fat phobia is sizeism, which is literally defined as discrimination against people based on both height and weight. God forbid I use a proper English dictionary term, right? If I see any of y'all niggas using the nerd emoji on me, I swear to God, I will smack you all the way to the shadow realm. The conversation continues from this point forward. But keep in mind, at no point did I say that the term quote-unquote isn't real. And at no point was I trying to quote-unquote gatekeep what terms people can and can't use. There were some things that he said during that argument where he started throwing ad hominem attacks at me unwarrantedly, which he later deleted. At one point, he said something along the lines of, "You have no right to speak on this issue because you're not even plus size yourself," which is false. Because to tell you the truth, I am. When I went for a doctor's appointment 6 months ago, I did a weigh-in on a scale during my physical, and I found out that I am currently 5'9" and weighing 230 pounds. I was 193 pounds before, but the reason why I gained more weight is because I've been so chronically depressed for a long time that it has gotten to the point where I stopped giving a shit about my own physical well-being. I am currently on a weight loss journey, and when 2025 comes, I aim to continue reaching my goal. But that's not the point. Here's how I had to respond. Take a look at this. He later apologized for this, but this incident, along with the June 30th and August 30th incidents, were already way past strike one. On December 11th, 2023, I was made aware by some random person on Twitter whose account is now deleted, who DM'd me about Blake sending them images of them self-harming. I was internally facepalming because this was one of the worst red flags I have ever seen from him. And the reason that I was given from Blake about why he did this was because people were accusing him of being transphobic, despite the fact that he himself is trans. However, at the time, I stupidly gave Blake the benefit of doubt because I personally believed that it was stupid that while Blake is trans, people were accusing him of being transphobic. That is, until I found out that people like Blair White exist. She is a self-hating trans woman who appeals to conservative audiences and is unsurprisingly a supporter of Donald Trump. Now, this whole experience has given me a new way of thinking. Saying that trans people can't be transphobic is like saying that black people can't be racist or self-hating. I'd like to warn you that the images you are about to see next are a clear example of Blake's continuous downward spiral and descent into madness. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. In case you didn't see what happened, Blake ended up getting into an online argument with a user by the name of Chrissy on Twitter. I genuinely do not feel like summarizing what these pictures were about because the images speak for themselves. And if I had to state everything wrong with these images, we'd be here all fucking day. I need to rant here because I feel like such a fucking idiot for coming to Blake's defense in this situation under the excuse of he's my partner, so I have to defend him regardless of whether he's in the right or in the wrong. As you can clearly see, I am a fucking moron. And I know that I'm a fucking moron because only a fucking moron would ever date someone like Blake. Blake, I have respect for trans people, but you are one of the only few trans people that I have zero respect for. I don't give a fuck about the fact that you're trans because your sexual orientation and gender identity had no fucking relevance or impact on your decision making back at the time that you were able to take the mature option of backing down and accepting defeat with your dignity intact when people asked you to stop multiple times. You made a choice not to do so and instead chose to double down on your actions and dig yourself an even deeper hole. And to add insult to injury, you have this mindset and belief that you are never in the wrong and that your behavior is always justified. The fact that you are using your identity as a trans/non-binary male as an excuse to justify all your hateful and histrionic behavior is just as blasphemous as using autism as an excuse to justify one's actions. Being trans does not make you immune to criticism. Being trans does not make you exempt from taking accountability for your actions. And I will tolerate no opinion of the contrary because anyone who says otherwise is full of shit. Are you ready for more chaos? Here's the part where Chrissy actually posted publicly about Blake sending them self-harm pics. And as you can see from this screenshot here, yet again, what I'm doing is wrong, I know it's wrong, but I'm doing it anyway. Not only did I cringe both internally and externally from this, but I was literally face-palming when this was brought to my attention. And not only that, look at the smug language Blake uses here. This is sociopathy at its worst. In retrospect, I should have paid more attention to the situation when it was happening at the time. But if this situation with Blake happened this year instead of last year, I wouldn't be surprised. Because I am way past the point where I'm done being nice to him. The more I keep scrolling through these images, the angrier I get. If you know that consequences would inevitably follow what you just did, then why the fuck would you continue to double down on it? Then again, I shouldn't be surprised anyway because Blake will literally start cutting himself and threatening suicide if and when he doesn't get his way. And when I show him the irreversible damage that he has done to my mental health, he shows absolute disregard for it. He expects me to feel bad for him suffering the consequences of his actions, yet when I want him to understand the pain and suffering I've had to endure because of him, he's basically calling me an attention whore. The hypocrisy there is fucking palpable. And you're gonna see it in this next chapter. Rhapsody's Diary. Entry date, December 26th, 2023. Today I learned that I should keep even my most innocuous opinions all bottled up. Today I learned that some people out there are so emotionally undeveloped that they can't even process that someone might just want to have their boundaries respected. So even if someone I'm dating feels guilty or that they're not doing a good enough job in the relationship and they want to know how they made me feel, specifically asking me for my honesty, I should just lie like a dog to protect the other person's feelings. This chapter actually makes me angrier and angrier and angrier the more I have to relive it. On December 25th, 2023, on Christmas Day, I was already at the point where I'd had enough. I needed to tell the truth to Blake. So I did exactly that, and he did not like it. The truth hurts, but the truth has set me free. You say that you felt bad about the way you mistreated me, but deep down, we all know that you didn't actually feel bad, especially based on how you behaved on Twitter back in November of that year. It was more than just the arguments between us. It was literally everything, including that stupid stunt you pulled where you DM someone with your self-harm pics. If that's not a giant red flag to you, I don't know what is. You have spent the better half of last year bombarding me with insults, bullying, and backtalk, as if that's any way to treat your partner. It doesn't matter if it was physical, mental, verbal, or emotional. Abuse is still abuse. Plain and simple. They say don't bite the hand that feeds you, but that's exactly what you've been doing to me this whole time. We talked, and at that point I did feel a bit bad for him, especially since I was a bit confrontational toward him. I did feel bad for him until he continued attacking me on both that day and the day after. What you're about to witness next is the most chaotic Christmas I have ever had the misfortune of spending an extended amount of time dealing with. And for context for this screenshot here, there was a conversation we were having earlier about Christmas. And this is the part where Blake decides to ignite a flame with me out of nowhere. I ain't starting nothing. You, of your own volition, chose to reply to me by taking your problems out on me, you fucking brain dead burden to everyone around you. The lack of self-awareness here is so rage-inducing that it's not even funny. When you see this screenshot, the only translation I can take out of that is basically, fuck you for wanting your boundaries to be respected, Lamau. Also, I'll have you know that neither I nor my girlfriend are sexually active. Jesus, you really are incapable of listening to reason, aren't you? Plus, good to know that your reading comprehension skills are completely non-existent. And then there's stuff like this that really lights a fire under my ass. Do it then. Bitch, if I fly all the way to Missouri right now, I will knock your fucking teeth so far down your goddamn throat that you will wish you were never born. And then there's also this. Off topic, but do you guys remember this? At first it was an empty threat that meant nothing, but because of you and so many other people who have fucked me over multiple times, I'm a man of my word. I may be a Democrat, but in 2025, that's all coming to an end. Why should I continue to stand up for people who never stood up for me? Why should I continue to stand up for people who will keep throwing me under the bus at a moment's notice and not have an ounce of remorse for it? I'm done with fake friends and I'm done standing up for them. If Project 2025 is gonna come take their rights away, then so be it. I'd like to see karma come back to kick them in the ass as punishment for what they've done to me. I'm done giving clemency to people who don't deserve it. But enough of the political shit. Let's get right back to business. Once again, you can see a clear lack of self-awareness in that screenshot. As for this one, first of all, you don't get to dictate when something is or isn't resolved, mushmouth. Secondly, based on your response, thanks for admitting you know that you're forcing me to be sexually interested in you. Once again, add sexual harassment to his rap sheet. And once again, fuck you for wanting your boundaries to be respected. Also, this makes you sound like you're forcing me to be gay. Also, imagine shitting on me for being a Christian and for being raised in a Christian household. You're a genuinely shitty person. I hope you understand that you made me punch the wall until my knuckles turned white that day. And once again, do you even hear how fucking delusional you sound right now? I literally communicated with you when we first started dating that I'm not gay. Imagine guilt tripping me for not wanting to engage in sexual relations with another man. Imagine trying to force me to be gay just for the sake of making you happy. That is so fucked. You can literally see how rage-inducing all of this is. Just when you thought things couldn't get worse, it does. Brace for impact. Prepárate para la segunda ronda. Victim blaming. Typical. Christ, this whole thing has damaged me. Wow. Fucking wow. Imagine saying that to someone who has actually attempted to commit suicide multiple times. Imagine trivializing and downplaying the impact of your actions. You're a fucking piece of shit. I didn't ruin Christmas for nobody is my point. You most certainly did, you pathetic excuse for a human being. Literally anyone with a functioning brain cell knows that Christmas is considered to be the flagship holiday of the calendar year. And you took it and made it all about yourself. I'm seeing so many shades of conceit and narcissism right now. You took a holiday that was supposed to be about spreading positivity, joy, cheer, and spending time with friends and family, and used it to take your personal problems out on everyone else. I find it funny how Blake is offended at how I'm quote-unquote treating him like he's incapable of having a basic conversation when he's literally demonstrating why. Talking to him is like trying to talk to a brick wall. Also, thank you for admitting to doubling down on all the shit you said to me the day before. Thank you for refusing to apologize for your actions, you fucking cunt. So shut your damn mouth, lol. Make me, bitch! Make me! I will fucking fight you! Also, imagine having the audacity to say, I'm sick and tired of people kissing your goddamn ass acting like you truly hurt you, as if to say you did nothing wrong. Which is unsurprising given the fact that in every situation you've caused of your own volition, you always act like you can never do anything wrong. Every time people try to calm you down or hold you accountable, you always act like you're the victim. You always act like everyone is out to get you and that you're cornered. It's never my fault with you. This is an even bigger level of main character syndrome and narcissism than I've ever seen from someone before. Also, imagine saying this to your own partner. That is so fucked. Especially since you tried to force me to engage in sexual activity with you against my will. Now it's your turn to listen up, mushmouth. You've had your turn to speak. This is the part where I had to issue a final response. Again. If I had $1 for every time I had to write these fucking things, I'd be one rich-ass nigga. Blake did apologize after this incident happened and felt guilty and remorseful. We made up after this happened. However, I spent the next 4 days breaking down crying because I witnessed a side of Blake that I wish I had never seen. An extremely abusive side. I was beginning to see exactly what kind of person he truly was. I was left fighting an internal struggle about whether or not I should break up with him. The only reason I stayed in that relationship was solely because of my Christian sense of generosity. They say, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, and I have followed that part of the Lord's Prayer to the letter, but it's gotten to the point where I've been too forgiving, and once again, he has taken advantage of that attribute way too many times for me to count. I desperately wanted to break up with him, but every time I told him I wanted to break up, he'd pull some sort of guilt-tripping shit and make me feel like the bad guy for wanting to do what's right for my already rapidly declining mental health. I only stayed just to keep the peace, until finally I'd had enough. I'll discuss that part later, but for now, let's fast forward all the way to January 2024. We made up after our fight on Christmas, but that didn't last long because on the day after New Year's Day of all days, just when I wanted to start things off fresh, Blake decided to start shit again in my server and spill it over into Gemma's server. Remember the June 30th, 2023 incident I mentioned earlier? Apparently, Blake tried demanding an apology from that guy, and when he refused to apologize, Blake threw a temper tantrum and told him to kill himself. Again. Blake, what the fuck were you thinking? Did you really think that you were gonna get an apology from him, especially with the kind of demeanor you were exhibiting? Also, take a look at this. Dude, even publicly admitting this makes you look like a crazy person. Do you even hear yourself when you're writing this? In fact, Blake, I want you to do me a favor here. Print out exactly what you just said there. Take that printout to a therapist. Ask them to fix you. See what happens. Also, here's proof that Blake was and still is very salty and bitter about the June 30th incident. No matter what kind of stupid shit he's fighting me over, he'll find any excuse possible to bring it up into conversation. Also, for the record, and for context regarding these images here, Shadow Cord, my old flagship server, maintained a percentage of ownership of what was then known as the Rhapsody Club, prior to its later renaming of the Public of Azura. Oh, by the way, the Cosmic Table, the Rhapsody Club, and the Republic of Azura, they're all the same server, but they've just had multiple name changes. Either way, Blake threw a whole temper tantrum that day, where he was all like, well, can we cut the partnership, lol? And then Nostalgia Works, a very good friend of mine here, replied by saying, relinquishing the Shadow Court's partial stake here to allow full ownership by Emily and Jenna's Epic server would be a decision that only Shadow could make. I obviously refused to terminate the partnership because, in case you couldn't tell, I had to fight, scratch, and claw my way back to where I was before after I was wrongfully ousted from the community thanks to the whole Rosina Head bullshit from 2022. Let's not forget that I was still a minor when I was being harassed, bullied, trolled, and doxxed, and driven to the point of attempting to commit suicide by members of the entire community, many of whom were full-grown adults. They took advantage of and exploited my personal emotions and used it as riffing material and encouraged harassment and bullying towards me because apparently riffing on mentally and emotionally vulnerable people is funny. I demanded justice, I fought for it, and I got it. There was a 0% chance I was ever going to terminate the partnership. As long as there is a heart beating inside of me, and as long as there is breath inside my body, that partnership is here to stay. Oh, and by the way, look at this part of his temper tantrum. Keep in mind, the Sean person mentioned here is Lunaris Proctor, one of my closest friends for over 4 years. Sean is also a trans male and a cornerstone member of the Shadow Pro Wrestling roster. However, he has requested to keep his on-screen character identifying as female. Also, look at this next image here. This image pissed me off to an extreme extent. I want you to carefully read this. Once again, what I'm doing is wrong, I know it's wrong, but I'm doing it anyway. He made his intentions abundantly clear. This wasn't just him saying shit out of anger. This was him expressing a genuine desire of intent. He knows what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing. This is a literal manifesto. When people kept pouring over from Shadow Court into Gemma's server, he literally said that he would discriminate against everyone who came from there and start telling them to kill themselves. That is fucked. Keep in mind, some of the people who are spilling over from my community are also minors. But that doesn't change the fact that you're still gonna keep telling them to kill themselves. Also, look at this next image here. Number 1, guilt tripping. Number 2, incapability of understanding that actions have consequences. Do I even need to say anything more? Also, once again, did you really think that you were going to get any sort of apology from him, especially based on how you conducted yourself? Telling him to kill himself wasn't going to get you anywhere. You had every opportunity to try to settle things maturely, civilly, and diplomatically, but you flagrantly chose not to, and instead chose to think with your feelings and not with your brain. Also, yet again, more sociopathy. By the way, you saying all this shit with a smug smile on your face pisses me off to an extreme extent. I'd like to knock that shit-eating grin right off your fucking face. Once again, you can see how genuinely rage-inducing his behavior is. Just admit that you don't care about the actions your community has taken against me. I literally called him out on it, just like how I called you out on your behavior too. He then continues saying, "It's so rich that someone told me, welcome to reality, while saying that being against non-binary people is wrong. Hope that guy dies too. People want to be hateful against unique identities there, and I won't stand for it. So many people there deserve to die. Especially that one person who entered from there a few days ago saying that they, quote, recently started supporting the LGBT community." So essentially you're saying that my friend Adam deserves to die for having religious values. Christ almighty, where do I start with this? I need to take a pause and go off on a rant here. For context on this screenshot here, Blake, just like me, is an advocate for LGBTQIA+ rights. However, he is someone who I'd call a quote-unquote progressive extremist. And because of his black and white way of thinking, he shows absolute disregard and disrespect for people's opposing or disagreeing viewpoints regarding the LGBTQIA+ community, especially a blatant disregard for people's religious values. What he fails to understand is that not everyone is going to be supportive of the LGBTQIA+ community. I'm a firm advocate for the LGBTQIA+ movement, but I've stated before that the community should think rationally, logically, and reasonably instead of letting their feelings do all the talking. I've stated before how I hate the fact that others are trying to make it mandatory for people to support the LGBT community. Did we all suddenly forget that the freedom to have different beliefs exists? Over time, I have witnessed people harassing, making threats towards, and wishing death and ill upon others simply for displaying a neutral stance and opinion towards the LGBT movement, or just for saying the words, "I don't support," or "I'm not a supporter," as if it was some sort of universal taboo or a criminal offense to not support them. Spoiler alert, it fucking isn't, and I will tolerate no opinion of the contrary. I will repeat that there is a difference. And for those watching this, please take the dicks out of your ears and pay attention to what I'm saying right now. There is a difference between simply saying I don't support LGBT people and saying I stand against LGBT people. Contrary to what you think, they are not the fucking same. And before people start automatically jumping to their bullshit straw man arguments, fallacies, and conclusions, I'm not advocating for homophobia or transphobia. I'm advocating for the right to think freely and independently. And for those who don't know what a straw man argument is, allow me to educate you. A straw man argument is a logical fallacy that occurs when someone blatantly misrepresents an opponent's argument to make it easier to attack. An example of such would be a scenario where you'd say to someone, "Happy holidays," and the other person responds by saying that you are anti-Christmas and you don't want anyone to say Merry Christmas anymore. That's basically what Blake has been doing here. I've been saying that it's okay to have different beliefs, whether religious or political. And Blake responds by saying, so it's okay to be homophobic and transphobic. Congratulations, Blake. You're just like all those other filthy fucking SJW liberals out there. I wouldn't be surprised if you were fuck buddies with that other piece of shit, Valerie Robertson. Literally the only problem I would have with people is if their beliefs and opinions were against LGBT people. If they were blatantly spreading lies, misinformation, and slander and pushing false narratives against them, then I would have a problem. If they were espousing hate rhetoric and hate speech against them, such as slurs, dehumanization, and being compared to child molesters and predators and shit like that, then I would have a serious problem. If they were going as far as to call for the mass genocide of LGBTQ plus people, calling for the government to take their rights away, or participating in other xenophobic actions, including physically and or sexually assaulting them just for being who they are, then I would have a major fucking problem. I strongly encourage the community to keep fighting for their rights and let their voices be heard and let their impact be felt. But if they're going as far as to try to force people to support them and exercise the "you're either with us or against us" mentality on them, that's where a line in the sand has to be drawn, because that mentality and behavior isn't helping the cause, it's harming it. Like, isn't it bad enough that MAGA Republicans are coming up with bullshit points like LGBT people are too emotional and they don't care about facts and reason, even though they literally do care about facts and reason, as some sort of bullshit excuse to spread hate rhetoric against them and pass legislation that will literally take their rights away? If you're engaging in any of the behaviors I mentioned above, you're literally proving their fucking point. It's that kind of behavior that's the main reason why the LGBT community gets such a bad rap from ultra-conservative freaks out there. Sexual orientation and gender identity is not a choice, but whether you want to support LGBT people or not, that's a choice. It's recommended and commonly advised to support LGBT people, but it's not a mandatory obligation to do so. You can't just force people to accept you. That goes completely against what your cause is about. The goal is to educate people and spread awareness about the positive impact that your community has on the world, not to force your beliefs and opinions onto others. Blake obviously didn't get the memo because, once again, he shows an absolute disregard for people's religious views regarding LGBT people in that screenshot. For context, Adam is a Muslim and he is of Egyptian heritage. Muslim people are notorious for their vehement disdain for LGBT people. Hell, Muslim and Arabic countries literally execute people for being gay. I think that's wrong. I don't think that's right at all. But you're never gonna find me judging people for practicing religion like how Blake did. Hell, I come from a Christian household with a family that comes from a morally conservative country. I'm literally the only progressive person in the entire family. I should also note that based on Blake's behavior, he is also someone who I would consider to be an LGBT supremacist and elitist. And yes, I'm using the term LGBT elitist because the word elitism is literally defined in the English dictionary as the attitude or idea that society should be controlled or governed entirely by a small select group of people or individuals. That small select group of individuals and people being the LGBTQIA plus community. He threw a whole temper tantrum when he found out that I, a Democrat, am friends with Republicans. And I'm literally dating a Republican right now. She's nice, kind, loving, and respectful, unlike Blake. Hey Caitlin, how are you doing? He told me and my friends to kill themselves. He told us to go die, and he said that he wanted to beat us up, throttle us against the wall, and harm us bodily. I will elaborate more on that later. For now, watch the chaos continue. As for this screenshot here, number 1, straw man argument. Number 2, I am so close to strangling you to death. Jesus Christ, you never fail to piss me off and enrage me. Number 3, in October 2023, I came out as pan-romantic, but now I'm just questioning what I am anymore. Also, look at this. Your inability to listen to reason, logic, and facts is just as big a part of the reason why this group of minorities that everyone, including myself, is championing for, gets such a bad reputation. And clearly your reading comprehension is non-existent, because I never said that I supported them. All I said was that I have friends of many various different beliefs. And if you can see this picture here, this was back when I was still in my anti-Republican phase. Over time, I've learned to be more accepting of people's political alignments. Except for people on the far left and people on the far right. They can both sit on a cactus and go fuck themselves with a flaming hot poker until the cows come home. Unlike conservatives, I'm all in favor of women's rights and abortion rights, especially in the case of rape or incest. Things looked like it was gonna calm down after that point, but this isn't where it ends. Here's the part where Blake begins throwing his childish temper tantrum. Be a helpless romantic all you want, but from this you do not love me. Guilt tripping, 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 Jesus! Once again, you are still showing that you are incapable of learning to live with the fact that actions have consequences. Especially this screenshot. I have never facepalmed so hard in my fucking life. First of all, you are arguing in a public channel where server news and current events were posted. People told you to stop multiple times and you refused to listen. Secondly, it's unfair of you to accuse my whole server and social circle of being discriminatory against non-binary people, all because of one person you had beef with. The only reason I hesitated to take action is because I don't like watching my friends fight. Also, read this part where he says, should I put it through a voice note that I just wanted an apology since no one has reading comprehension? Pot calling the kettle black. Also, keep in mind, Blake didn't actually break up with me. He was just acting like a petulant child and trying to make himself look more dominant and powerful. Once again, thank you for telling me fuck you for wanting your boundaries to be respected and fuck you for doing your job moderating your server. And this shit just keeps going on and 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 on. I have never facepalmed so hard in my life. I'm exasperated. You exhaust me. You physically, mentally, and emotionally, and verbally exhaust me. Here's the part where Blake actually wakes up and realizes that he's in the wrong for once. Keep in mind, I stand strong in my belief that cutting ties with people because of their political beliefs, unless they're far left or far right, is one of the most immature things that people can do. I'm a Democrat, and I'm friends with the Republicans. There's nothing wrong with that. It's called unity, something that the LGBTQIA+ community has been preaching for a long time, and something that said community aims to fight for. And here's where I'm gonna get even more annoyed. I am sick and fucking tired of people acting like it's some sort of criminal offense or universal taboo for Democrats like me to associate with Republicans when it's not. At the end of the day, we're both two wings of the same bird. We may have conflicting views, but there is one thing we share in common, and that's our love of country. At least this one time Blake was being understanding. Blake apologized again after this argument ended, and we didn't get into another scrap for another whole month. That is, until February 23rd came around. This next chapter is already going to be one of the most stress-inducing and psychologically taxing parts of this entire shit show. Get ready. Around February 23rd, 2024, I was coping because I was dealing with shit that happened from the day before when Sora and the majority of the Halo Studios boot-up crew abruptly cut ties with me without even providing me an explanation as to why, which is a massive coward move after everything I've done for them. Back then, I was devastated. Now I'm not even fazed by it anymore, given the fact that he and the rest of the community surrounding him are just nothing more than fake friends who will cut you off over the stupidest and pettiest of reasons. Not helping was the fact that I was dealing with my own problems, and Blake decided to exacerbate them. I don't fucking need to be dealing with shit like this when I'm already down on my luck. Because of him, my blood pressure is already through the roof right now. I'm surprised I haven't gone into cardiac arrest and died yet after all the stress he's put me through for over a fucking year. Now here's the actual story. The evening of February 23rd was the start of Emily Mower's 19th birthday, or rather February 24th in her time zone since she's British. Emily is a very good friend of mine who I care about dearly. Sure, we reconciled with each other after Rosina's downfall, even though she played an integral part in my wrongful ousting from the community in 2022, but I don't care about that anymore. What matters is that she actually cared about my best interests, and I cannot express enough how grateful I am for her looking out for my personal safety and mental health. Not to mention the fact that she has also been on the receiving end of Blake's bullshit too, and for little to no fucking reason. Blake got mad all because I wished Emily a happy birthday. Dude literally made a mountain out of a molehill. The images I'm about to show you next, I can't even begin to explain them. The level of stupidity and pettiness from the situation, it doesn't even deserve words. Just take a look and see for yourself. This screenshot happened immediately after I wished Emily a happy birthday. And then he starts off like, I want to kill myself. When do you not want to kill yourself, dude? Also, if that's not an egregious example of attention seeking, then I don't know what is. I say that because you said that you were throwing a public temper tantrum just to get my attention. You guys will see what I mean in the following screenshots and images. This image here shows that he's just being ungrateful and taking everything for granted. Never got a single happy birthday from him on my birthday. That's false. We literally had an hour-long call on the night when you turned 22. One of these screenshots here where he's like, why do you hate me so bad? I'll be explaining why later, you absolute piece of fucking garbage. Then we have him out of nowhere snapping at Emily saying, quit sucking his dick. And that's where this shit continues. Being an absolute piece of shit to someone who I care about very deeply. Even after I told him, we are not fucking doing this again. No matter how many times I ask you to stop, you still want to continue. This is the only way I can get you to talk to me since you won't speak to me at all, so I gotta do this. You won't talk to me anymore, so the best option is to throw a public temper tantrum. Do you even fucking hear yourself? There is such a major lapse and leap in logic here that it's not even funny. Once again, did you ever stop to consider that the reason why I don't speak to you anymore is because you behave like this? I don't feel comfortable speaking to you because you act like this every fucking time over minor and petty nonsense. The more I keep looking at this, the more I feel like fucking facepalming and shaking my head. And this shit just goes on and on and on and on. As for this screenshot here, I'm drunk, you asswipe. I have every reason to believe that you are faking being drunk. A drunk person wouldn't be able to write or speak in proper complete sentences. A drunk person would have a serious lack of motor control. A drunk person's brain wouldn't even be able to function the same way a sober brain does. You were cognizant of the shit you were saying even when sober. You knew what you were doing. Don't ban me for hurting myself. My body, my choice. Not like Gemma was planning on taking action against you anyway. I'll discuss that part later. Also, damn, you really sound like a fucking feminist. And once again, here you are taking my pain and suffering and making it all about you. You do this every fucking time, and I'm honestly surprised you haven't gotten the hint by now. Jesus Christ. And here's the thing. I understand that you're jealous of the friendships I have with other people. But guess what? It still doesn't excuse your behavior. And once again, straw man argument. Do I even need to say anything more? The conversation continues from this point forward. And it just keeps getting even more annoying and exasperating and rage-inducing the more I have to look through these fucking screenshots. I am so close to popping a fucking blood vessel right now. Also, yay, more straw man arguments! Here's a fun drinking game. Take a shot every fucking time Blake does this. You're like literally all the worst parts of being in a relationship. And this shit continues again and again and again. Even when my friend Filippo suggested that you get therapy to help you with your anger management issues, you were like, haha, no, fuck that. I've done shit for years and years. Well, keep trying. Also, Jesus Christ, I'm shaking my head again. You're pulling the same shit you did back in January with the whole breaking up with you publicly lol shit. Oh my god, you're such a petulant child. Sometimes you genuinely make me want to beat you senseless because the more you keep pulling this shit, the more annoyed and angry I get. And this is the part where I start seeing red. Because when you hurt the people I care about, you hurt me. Also, if you've known me for this long, you know damn well that I would ride or die for my friends. And here's the part where Blake keeps telling Emily to kill herself. Geez, no wonder she blocked you after that. Because she herself told me that she blocked you because she didn't want to deal with you telling her to kill herself constantly over stupid and petty shit. Sorry, I wanted a partner that would talk and spend time with me. Imagine expecting me to reward you with positive affection after the behavior you've displayed and exhibited with me and everyone else around me. That's not how the world works. And we have more guilt tripping and more guilt tripping and more guilt tripping. And here's the part where I actually have to explain the impact of his actions, which of course he doesn't even take into consideration. And then he's like, okay, we'll get with someone else. Like, Jesus fucking Mary, Mother of God. I literally told you I didn't want the relationship to end at the time. But now I'm glad it ended. I kept telling you that multiple times, but apparently you're too fucking stupid to comprehend that. Once again, Blake, are you too stupid to read? Are you illiterate? Yes or no? Not to mention there's also this screenshot here. In this screenshot, you can see how much of a controlling bitch Blake is. Where he's all like, well, it's my Polly, and I get a say of who is and isn't, lol. I am so close to smacking you in the fucking face! And then I responded, so you're in control of who I date now? And then Blake responds by saying, no, I'm in control of who I date, and if I want you out, I can kick you out. I have the power to do that. The only thing I can translate from that is basically, I only see you as a toy that I can just throw away when I'm finished playing with you. Words fail to express my desire for you to listen to reason and actually get this shit through your thick fucking skull, instead of me having to repeat this shit for you again and again and again like you're 5 years old. And then here's a part where he's all like, you have enough time to speak to friends, why can't you spare some time for me? You've been told the reason why. 5 times. 5. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco. 5 times. You were told. 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 Clearly you're too fucking stupid to understand anything I've said to you. The conversation still continues, but then Blake's like, if Gemma has a job and other stuff, yet can still speak to me each day, then you have no real excuse. Shut the fuck up. Literally, shut the fuck up. I am so close to strangling you to death right now. And this shit just goes on and 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 on. Jesus fucking Christ, there is so much guilt tripping here. Once again, I have to explain shit to him again, but he still can't comprehend that. And he's like, wow, that's genuinely awful. Thank you. Just get therapy. How about you fuck yourself? Why don't you take your own advice? And then here we have Gemma who's like, how about waiting on Blake to be sober? How about actually fucking doing something about his behavior? This was the part where I officially gave up on even trying to reason with him, because continuing to argue with a petulant child is no longer worth my time or patience. Shaking my head. Again, sometimes you make me just want to beat you senseless until that one neuron you have left actually starts functioning. You want to be mad that I care about my friends? Fine. Die mad about it. Cry about it for all I care. This conversation continues, and I'm telling you, the level of stupidity here, it doesn't even deserve words. However, there was a small short period in time where Blake began to calm down for a bit until he resumed bitching operations. Just watch. This is the part where he starts flirting with someone else in my fucking face. just to have some sort of gotcha against me as part of his incessant temper tantrum. Watch the chaos continue. It only gets exponentially worse from this point forward, and it's just tiresome having to go through all of this. I also find it funny how Blake is trying to act like Emily was trying to silence him when all she was doing was trying to calm him down, because he was taking out his uncontrollable rage out on me and my friends on a day like this, where in her time zone she's already reached her 19th birthday. And you told me that you were doing this because you just wanted to talk to me again. Dude, did you really think that something like that would make me want to talk to you more? Christ. And then Blake's like, there's only been like 2 to 3 fights ever. What are you even on? This would be the 4th. So you're denying all the other times you've been attacking me over stupid shit. Good to know. Go to hell. I really don't feel like reading the rest of the screenshot because this image explains itself. Number 1, do you actually have that much of a lack of self-awareness that you forget how many times you've treated me like absolute human excrement? Number 2, I've been trying to break away from you for months, but you wouldn't leave me alone with your incessant guilt-tripping and manipulation tactics. Once again, watch the chaos continue. Also, look at this screenshot right here, where he's like, also, don't think this is unwarranted. You see this right here? This is way past the point of sociopathy. This is literal sadism. Here's the part where Blake continues pivoting to pointless non sequiturs that have nothing to do with the main topic of this argument. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not in the wrong here, but Blake, what you're doing here is way worse. And if you believe otherwise, then your moral priorities are fucked beyond all comprehension. And once again, straw man argument. Once again, by the way, not a valid refutation of my argument. And here's a part where Blake's bitchiness reaches new heights. You are not a victim, you are not innocent. And neither are you. Never said I was, Buttercup. Well, you most certainly are acting like it. And I think if you were smart, you would have stole that attitude with me. Because if you actually talked to me like that in person, I would have kicked you in your fucking face and then come back to pick up the pieces. So I think if you were smart, you'd know your place and stay in it. And recognize who you're talking to, bitch. It gets more and more and more rage-inducing from this point forward. Like, I was genuinely getting sick and tired of having to deal with this kind of shit. Especially the constant manipulation tactics, the constant shit-talking. Hell, I literally admitted that the reason I don't speak to him anymore is because I'm scared of him. This dude literally made me fear for my life in more ways than one, which I will get into detail about later. And it just doesn't stop. It literally does not stop. Oh, by the way, Blake, 5 words. Shut your dumb fucking mouth. I am sick of your shit. It has been constant since you and I first started dating that you had been attacking me over the stupidest shit with absolute zero remorse for it and absolute disregard for my feelings, yet you want me to understand how you feel because apparently you're the victim here. You want the entire world to revolve around you. Are you ready for more of the dumbest shit ever? This is the part where my true anger and rage starts to kick in. Blake's actions literally never fail to piss me off here because he's like, he keeps trying to change the topic where he's all like, that's fucking rich coming from you considering I never got justice for anything Shadow Court did to me. Can't you go through one day without mentioning Shadow Court as if it has anything to do with the current argument at hand when it fucking doesn't? Christ almighty. In these screenshots, you can clearly see how on my nerves he has been getting this whole time. The irony of him trying to hold me accountable over a situation that I had no fucking involvement in, and here he's all like, well, quit holding it against me. Number 1, holding what against you? If anything, you're the one holding shit against me over a situation that I had no fucking involvement in. And secondly, I'm literally explaining to you how you're in the wrong here. That's how holding people accountable works. When the dog shits on the carpet, you're supposed to rub their face in it and show them exactly what they did wrong. Not like you give a shit, since you obviously have a severe lack of common decency. I was just hurt that you were friends with someone who hurt me, okay? I understand that, but guess what? That's still not an excuse for the way you're acting. Also, I'm not going to completely end my friendships with someone just because you don't like them. That's basically you asking me to completely sacrifice my loyalty to my friends just for the sake of appeasing you and making you happy. And that's honestly not okay. But it doesn't stop from here because his outbursts still continue. And he literally threatened to send self-harm pics to anyone, quote-unquote, interested. Literally anyone with a functioning brain cell would not be okay with that. Even after I apologize to him, he still insists on crying and whining like a little bitch. As you can clearly see, I am genuinely losing my temper as I am reliving all this. I am way past exasperated. And then there's also this. I mean, me explaining I just wanted you to talk to me never worked. So you think the solution is to go out and behave like this? And you're 22 years old. Do I need to explain to you how fucking embarrassing that is? Because you are literally using your uncontrollable rampage against me and other people to justify your reasoning. Dude, that shit isn't going to make me want to talk to you more. It's only going to make me want to talk to you less. In fact, you've already succeeded in that part. Get ready for the screenshot that left me shaking with rage. I am so fucking incensed right now. This is a screenshot where he's like, I wasted so much on you. I wasted my love, my energy, and my mental state on you. You're nothing but a damn waste to me. And like always, I will get rid of you. Excuse me, fucking what? Remember what I said earlier about him indirectly saying that he only sees me as a toy that he can just throw away when he's finished playing with me? That's basically what this is. Imagine saying that to your own partner. That is so fucked. You're nothing but a damn waste to you. This damn waste fought your battles for you when you were being harassed and bullied on Twitter. This damn waste gave you mental and emotional support when you were stuck in the psych ward and even provided for you when you were at your lowest points in life. This damn waste supported you financially when you needed it. And this is how you repay me? You have the fucking temerity to say this kind of shit to my face after everything I've done for you? You made the choice to bite the hand that feeds you. You chose to take our entire relationship for granted. And like always, I will get rid of you. Excuse me, is that a fucking threat? Because I will have no problem forwarding this to the Salem Police Department, along with the rest of the insurmountable evidence I have against you. I will get rid of you. Not if I do it first, you ungrateful and deranged piece of rhino shit. The more bullshit that keeps coming out of that sewer hole you call a mouth, the more I want to bash your fucking skull open with a baseball bat. To everyone who chose to block and cut ties with me in favor of defending this person, fuck you. I demand and am entitled to an apology from each and every single one of you. As for you, Blake, I think if you were smart, you'd take your own advice instead of telling one of my friends to shut the fuck up. How about actually taking his advice since people are trying to help you? But no, you want to close yourself off to listening to reasons so you can keep acting like a fucking child. And it's a good thing that Gemma and I broke up with you. You know why? Because we were sick and fucking tired of having to listen to you cry and whine and have to come to put that goddamn pacifier in your fucking mouth. Agreeing that I need to get offline. How about you get offline, you little bitch? How about I take you out back and put you down like Old Yeller? I'm surprised I haven't had a heart attack from this yet. Here's the part where Blake actually got called out by Blue Midnight, one of my friends here. Blake is over here saying that he's like, I'm a grown-ass adult, I ain't gonna fight you IRL. Keep in mind, my friend Filipos is still a minor as of the date this video is being released. Blake is over here saying he wouldn't fight someone IRL, but we all know that's a fucking lie. Because you literally threatened to knock Blue Midnight's teeth out. Also, how the fuck are you gonna knock anyone's teeth out when you literally admitted to me during our relationship that you've never gotten into a physical fight in your life and that you can't fight? Oh, by the way, that's another weakness I can exploit from you. Because even if you tried to fight me in person, I would have knocked your ass out in a heartbeat. You got called out for that. And for the record, Blue Midnight was still 17 years old when this incident happened. There wasn't a death threat, but Blake threatened to assault him. Take a look at the screenshots here and you'll see exactly what I mean. Not to mention he literally apologized. And secondly, stop acting like you're the supreme moral authority on everyone's mind. You do not get to dictate how people think. Oh, and by the way, number one, While I agree that being a minor does not make you exempt from taking accountability for your actions, that still doesn't give you the right to threaten violence on them. You know that old saying, 2 wrongs don't make a right? I really think it would be in your best judgment if you took that advice to heart. Number 2, remember what I said about MAGA Republicans saying that LGBT people are incapable of thinking with logic and reason and instead choose to think with their feelings? You're literally proving their point if you think that threatening people with violence is the answer to your problems. But still, nah man, nah. You knew he was a minor and you still insisted on threatening him with violence. You're fucking 22. He was still 17. Once again, do I need to explain to you how embarrassing that is? You're in your fucking 20s and you're pulling this kind of shit. And here's another screenshot where Blake is like, it's so funny I'm getting called crazy here when we got people that literally want to seek me out and hurt me. Like, you're so sane for wanting to do that. Stop acting like everyone is out to get you. As desperate as you want to be, you are not a victim. And I suggest you stop acting like one if you know what's good for you. And then Blake is all like, literally no one could care less about my problems, so why should I care about other people's problems? That's what I'm gonna start doing. Since no one gives a shit, I will not attempt to care for anyone. Not like you ever care, given the fact that you've shown constant disregard and long-standing apathy towards people who you've made uncomfortable because of your actions. And here's the part where Blake starts guilt-tripping Gemma. For fucking crying out loud! Like, how many times do I have to embed it into your head? Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying that you don't have every right to be upset about things that will offend you or impact you. You do have every right to be upset about that. Anyone in the LGBTQ community would be upset about that. But guess what? Still not an excuse to threaten someone with violence. This is the part where Blake actually recognizes that he's in the wrong for once. Yet again, finally his eyes are opened to the error of his ways. After multiple hours and minutes of trying to convince him. But here's the part where he outright lies, where he says, I ain't a bad person. I ain't a bad person. He says after saying to my face, I wasted my love, my energy, and my mental health on you. You're nothing but a damn waste to me, and like always, I will get rid of you. I'll be doing my reason you suck speech about you later, you pathetic excuse for a human being. Things did start to calm down after that situation, but after that, I want you to look at this screenshot. Before you start going apeshit and accusing me of being ableist because I'm talking shit about someone with a mental disorder, keep 2 things in mind. Keep 2 things in mind. Number 1, I'm literally on the autism spectrum. Therefore, your claim is invalid. Number 2, having a mental disorder or disability still does not excuse someone's behavior. Meanwhile, in addition to the apology I got from Blake, I also got confirmation on that situation where Blake started trying to flirt with someone else in my face right in the middle of his tantrum. But yeah, here's the part where he actually apologized for his actions. But then he's like, I don't willingly go. I want to fight with my partner for 3 hours straight tonight. Are you sure about that?
Are you sure about that?
Because you literally said earlier that you were doing this just to get my attention. You knew exactly what you were doing. Do not lie to me again. You are genuinely not smart enough to pull it off. This was the biggest waste of time I had ever had to deal with on that day. This was not at all how I wanted to spend a Friday night. Do you know what I could have been doing that night? I could have been watching WWE Friday Night SmackDown on Fox. But instead I had to waste my time and patience dealing with this bullshit. Blake may have calmed down and apologized after this whole incident went down, but this chapter doesn't end here. There's more. Another minor incident occurred when on March 28, 2024, 2 friends of mine, who are not prejudiced against non-binary people by the way, joined Gemma's server. When they first entered, Blake was welcoming towards them, but the minute I mentioned that they came from Shadow Chord, Blake immediately started bawling. Didn't need to say that info, but thanks for it, I guess. Gonna fucking kill myself if they say that non-binary people or other identities don't exist. For fuck's sake, stop assuming that all people in my community are prejudiced against non-binary people, all because of one person you had beef with. Secondly, That guy you had beef with did not say that non-binary people don't exist. He only said that he personally didn't believe in it, and that was a completely misguided and poorly educated take. And number 3, here's a fun drinking game. Take a shot every time Blake threatens to kill himself over minor and petty nonsense. Here's the screenshot that genuinely pissed me off. Where another one of my friends, who I've also wanted to keep anonymous for their protection and safety and per their request, they said, and I quote, "I'm still unsure if I'm going to join Shadow Court. I'm not really joining any servers right now." And then Blake is like, "Don't do it, lol. You'll get judged by people no matter what. It's chaos." I wish there was a way to convince people to be there to be inclusive, but unfortunately, not a lot of people will. Number 1, fuck you for spreading blatant falsehood about my server and community. Oh no, don't join Shadow Court. It's a suicide mission. It's a transphobic server and you're gonna get misgendered. I find this beyond disrespectful, considering the fact that you're slandering and tarnishing the reputation of a community that it took me 4 years to build from the ground up. I find it absolutely hilarious how the mere mention of the name Shadow Court is enough to strike fear into that black hole and empty void inside of your chest that you call a heart. I hope you understand that you're the reason why people at the Republic of Rosura have been hesitant and paranoid about making the jump to the Rhapsody Republic. I've been hearing the same excuses over and over and over again. I don't want to join that server because of the way they treat trans and non-binary people. If you're trans, you're not going to get misgendered or named. Quit listening to the fucking fear-mongering. This bullshit is coming from the same person who has the "you're either with us or against us" mentality and accused anyone who disagreed with him in the slightest of being homophobic, transphobic, and prejudiced against non-binary people, despite there being zero fucking indication or evidence proving it. Why the fuck are any of you listening to a literal crybaby who does nothing but throw temper tantrums when things don't go his way? This dude single-handedly destroyed my community's legacy and reputation because all he did was bitch about that one incident ad nauseum. I hope you understand that if you're still siding with him after all this, you are complicit. I don't want to have to make it imperative to join the Rhapsody Republic, but I guess that's what I'm going to start doing from now on. And for the record, we are very progressive and have no prejudice against trans or non-binary people. We have a healthy mix of both liberals/progressive and conservatives in our social circle. We heavily repudiate discrimination and bigotry in the Rhapsody Republic. Number 2, you weren't trying to quote-unquote convince anyone to quote be inclusive. You tried to use force to get people to agree with you because apparently you can never do anything wrong, right? You literally threatened to label anyone who either disagreed with your opinions or questioned your so-called quote-unquote authority as homophobic, transphobic, NB-phobic, and every other ism and phobic under the fucking sun. And not only did you use force to emphasize your argument, but you literally threatened them with violence and told them to kill themselves and go die. Once again, you had every opportunity to try getting your point across in a mature, civil, and diplomatic manner, and you blatantly chose not to. Jesus fucking Christ, you are the epitome of all the stereotypes of an SJW liberal wrapped up all into one package. I even had to explain to him myself, just because one person has that belief does not mean everyone else does. I'm not cultivating an environment full of transphobes or homophobes. No matter how many times I keep trying to embed this into his thick fucking skull, he forgets all about it in the blink of an eye. And besides, that guy wasn't even going to join Gemma's server anyway, because knowing him, he has better things to do with his time. So there's no reason to start fear-mongering here. Also, I can confirm that this is true. I've been taking action about the homophobia and transphobia and discrimination and bigotry in my server not just since the rebrand, but since the very fucking beginning. And then Blake responded saying, "Yeah, but it's still okay for me to be wary of people I have not met before." That's understandable, but that doesn't give you the right to be prejudiced against my entire social circle, which I'll continue talking about in the next chapter of this godforsaken story. The conversation continues with me getting my point across and getting him to listen to reason. And there's this one rare common sense moment from Blake where he's like, "I just want to emphasize that it isn't your fault I and others think about it that way. It's the people themselves that scare us. You are not to blame for me being misgendered those months ago. You do not control anyone's actions, and my anger was misguided. Thank you for coming to your senses. There is a God. There is a Jesus. They do exist. Hallelujah. 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 Motherfucker. Once again, rare common sense moment. Hopefully you'll stop blaming me for shit that I had nothing to fucking do with. But then Blake responds by saying, I just want you to understand that once I have a bad experience with someone in a place, I get that impression about everyone there. It's just the way it is. But dude, that's not how the world works. Once again, having a fixed black and white mindset won't get you anywhere in this world. Either way, Blake apologized for this incident as well, and there were no more fights after that. No fights in April, and no fights in May. However, in June, shit happens. Again. Get ready for the next chapter. At the end of May 2024, I shut down Shadow Cord with plans to build a new server that would be entirely different from its predecessors. I was sick and tired of having to deal with constant drama in Shadow Cord. Plus, while I tried to salvage it, the fact remains, we had a lot of fun over the years, but at the same time, our server and its culture also did more harm than good. And our server's reputation had been tarnished beyond all comprehension and recognition. On June 1st, 2024, a lot of my friends migrated from Shadow Cord into Gemma's server following its closure. However, you remember when I said that every time I have to explain shit to Blake, he forgets all about it in the blink of an eye? Yeah, that morning he decided to go on a psychotic rampage and start shit again. He decided to reignite a flame that had already been long extinguished multiple times. Blake started bawling because one of my friends who migrated from Shadow Cord, who is also autistic, used the term retarded as an insult to refer to something and not someone. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Telling an autistic person not to use the word retarded is like telling a black person not to say the N-word. Where do I even begin with this screenshot here? Daphne, who is one of my closest friends for over 4 years, did nothing wrong. She doesn't use slurs, she's not homophobic, she's not racist, she's not transphobic, and she's obviously not prejudiced against non-binary people. She's literally one of the nicest people you'll ever get to know. Blake decided to be a bitch and abuse his power as co-owner of the server by banning everyone who came from Shadow Cord, including Daphne, for no reason other than being from Shadow Cord. Without Gemma's consent, I must ask. Also, when you see this screenshot here, number one, here's a fun drinking game. Take a shot every time Blake keeps mentioning the June 30th, 2023 incident as if it's even relevant anymore. Number two, black and white thinking. That's a good way to start the day, right? Number three, we're not yelling at you for having an anxiety attack. We're telling you that you can't just abuse your power and start banning people whenever you feel like it simply because you don't like them. Number four, you have every right to be uncomfortable, but guess what? It still doesn't excuse your actions. And then there's this. Number one, when you tried demanding an apology from him, you were fighting him in a public channel where server news and current events are meant to be posted. We asked you to stop multiple times and you continued. Number two, that is not what he said. If you look back at the previous times I've explained things to you, you'll know damn well that he did not say that. Quit grossly exaggerating things in order to fit your twisted and broken narrative. All you want to do is make yourself look like a victim when you're not. Fucking Christ, I just can't with you sometimes, you know? And by the way, there's also this, and this also really pissed me off. Imagine baselessly accusing Filipos of being prejudiced against non-binary people despite there being zero fucking indication or evidence proving it. Congratulations, Blake, you're literally proving my point. Once again, you're just like all those fucking filthy far-left SJW liberals out there. Shaking my head, man. Shaking my head. When will you ever learn? Also, in response to this screenshot here, it's not the fact that you're uncomfortable with people from my community that's the problem. That's not the issue. The issue is that you're going as far as to discriminate against every single person in my social circle based on one person who you had ill blood with. At this point, your definition of transphobia and discrimination against non-binary people is just crying wolf, because you're accusing people of such without valid proof or evidence to back up your nonsensical claims. And that's another issue that I have with Blake. Whenever people criticize him for his behavior, he immediately pulls out the quote-unquote transphobe card, as if this excuses everything he's done at this point. It's so overused, especially when the criticism has nothing to do with his identity as a trans/non-binary male. He's quick to shut it down with "Oh, I'll just label everyone as transphobic so that no one can question me or my authority." As if that word somehow allows you to do whatever you want and suffer no consequences for it. Once again, painting people with the same broad brush solves nothing, and it's not gonna get you anywhere. Once again, you have every right to be uncomfortable, but don't go on a fucking rampage accusing all my friends of having the same views. Well, I'm exercising my rights, Lamau. It's not fair how I can't escape anything IRL or online without there being an issue. Yeah, you're exercising your rights by abusing your power! How the fuck do you not see anything wrong with what you're doing? Geez, sorry for not wanting to get hate crimed again. Number 1, stop trying to act like the moral police. Number 2, hate crimed? Oh my god, shut the fuck up! Quit painting yourself as this quote-unquote damsel in distress victim. You're not being quote-unquote hate crimed. You only had an issue with one person and you decided to take it out on everyone else. And don't even try blaming this on your BPD or generalized anxiety disorder. You are doing all of this of your own volition. Once again, straw man argument. And here's more proof that Blake treats his own friends like shit. I understand you have personal issues, but guess what? Still not an excuse to take them out on everyone else. And me personally, I would not forgive you for that. Ever. Especially since you basically accused me of being a closeted homophobe. Like, Filipos, he's more forgiving than I am. Because he actually forgave you for basically accusing him of being prejudiced against non-binary people. And for further context on this screenshot you are seeing right now, Zach Mosley was a former friend of mine who I cut ties with 2 years ago after information resurfaced about him having prejudice against non-binary people. He also used to be friends with Rosina Head, so make of that what you will. Things started to calm down here and Blake apologized for his behavior, which I then accepted as per usual. However, this would be an apology acceptance that I would immediately rescind, because in just an hour, Blake immediately goes right back to being a bitch. If you thought that this was going to be a regular argument, let me tell you that this is literally anything but. Just watch the chaos continue. Number 1, guilt tripping and manipulation. Number 2, you literally abused your power by banning my friends without Gemma's consent, you fucking brain dead burden to everyone around you. Good to know that you believe you're justified in doing what you did. Go to hell! And here's more proof that Blake has a severe lack of discipline. As for this screenshot here, number 1, why do you still believe you're entitled to an apology from him after the behavior you put on? Did you really think that telling him to kill himself was really going to solve anything? Number 2, people told you to stop because you were causing a scene in a public channel where server news and current events were posted. I cannot believe I have to keep reiterating this to you. Number 3, once again, he did not say that. Stop blowing shit dramatically out of proportion just to paint yourself as a victim. I'm getting real sick and fucking tired of having to explain shit to him, man. I really am. And reading this screenshot feels like falling down a flight of stairs. I am literally face palming so hard right now. Number 1, because if I gotta suffer like that, then you should too. First of all, this is literally the what I'm doing is wrong, I know it's wrong, but I'm doing it anyway mentality. Secondly, didn't you already acknowledge that I am not responsible for the actions of independent third parties? Number 2, I hope people who hurt you and mess with you never apologize and you have to fear others because of it. Fuck you! Literally, fuck you! Number 3, again, you're not being punished for wanting an apology from someone. You're being corrected because of how you're acting. Then look at this screenshot here. If you know that I wasn't the one who took such action, then why the fuck are you holding shit against me for it? Also, you were the one that brought it up into conversation first. And before anyone says anything, what's worse, saying kill yourself or saying someone's gender ain't valid, because that's literally what he said to me. Why is this even a fucking question? Again, you're literally proving the point of MAGA Republicans when they say that you only think with your feelings instead of with your brain. To answer your question, they're equally as bad. And if you think that one has more weight than the other, then your moral priorities are beyond fucked. And also, he literally did not say that your gender is not valid. How many times are you going to keep twisting people's words? And then there's also this. If you don't support people for who they are because you don't believe in them, then you deserve to die, Lamau. Once again, do you even hear yourself? For starters, he has nothing against LGBT people. Did you not hear me earlier when I said that his take was misguided and uneducated? I literally stated earlier that not everyone knows about the many various sexual orientations and gender identities across the spectrum of sexuality. Take it from me, a person who only knew what gay and lesbian people were when I first started joining gay-straight alliances in middle school and high school. I didn't know what bisexuality was until the age of 11, and I didn't know what transgenderism was until the age of 10. Either way, I was, and still am, accepting of people for who they are. But what I have a problem with is when people use their sexual orientation or gender identity as an excuse to think that they're somehow immune to criticism or that they're somehow exempt from taking accountability for their actions. And when people make their entire personality revolve around their sexual orientation or gender identity. If being gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans, non-binary, etc. is your only redeeming quality and you don't have any other attributes to your personality, it just makes you a toxic person. Trust me, I've dealt with several. Number 2, when the fuck did he say that quote-unquote non-normal LGBT people deserve discrimination and hate IRL? Citation needed, evidence required. Number 3, he was literally hate criming me. 2 words. Victim complex. Shut the fuck up, for God's sake. And there's also this. Number 1, guilt tripping. Number 2, I literally mentioned that I don't share their views, but I'm friends with many people of various beliefs. Once again, I'm not going to completely end my friendships with someone just because one person has an issue with him. You're literally asking me to completely sacrifice my integrity just for the sake of pleasing you and making you happy. That's honestly not okay. Number 3, I literally called him out shortly after that incident went down, just like how I called you out. Stop acting like I'm giving him special treatment and treating him like he's quote-unquote perfect, because I'm doing nothing of the sort. None of us are perfect. If anything, we're all the complete opposite. Number 1, he literally misgendered me. Once again, citation needed, evidence required. You had 2 altercations with him, but at no point did he ever refer to you as a female, despite you identifying as a trans male. Number 2, okay, should I just not have told him to die? I literally stated before that his argumentation is extremely flawed while yours was valid. But if you're telling people to die and wishing death, ill, and harm on people, or threatening them with violence, then it immediately invalidates any and all credibility your argument has, and it only further proves the point of those who claim that you're incapable of listening to reason and you only think with your feelings. These next 2 screenshots exhaust me to no end. Literally no one ever fucking said that shit. Stop twisting shit to fit your broken narrative. Also, you see what you're doing right here? Pulling out the "it's because I'm this or that" card? Your behavior and demeanor here is exactly why I have problems with people who use neopronouns and xenogenders. It's because those people create people like you. And I'm not talking about your sexual orientation or gender identity. I'm talking about the fact that you prioritize your feelings and your fragile ego over your morals. I don't deserve for it to be harder for me to make a living because quote-unquote businesses have the right to choose. You're fucked up for real. That was not my point. It was the point that that guy that you had an issue with was trying to make. But sure, keep twisting the narrative against me because I'm the asshole here. And then there's also this. Of course you wouldn't know a damn thing about it because you're happy with who you are. Fucking asshole telling me you're happy you're being cis. Shut your mouth before I throw your skull onto a hard concrete floor. Now you're just being ridiculous, throwing other irrelevant parts into conversation against me as some sort of gotcha. Get ready to witness the parts that really light a fire under my ass. No, I am not wrong. The fact that I'm considered in the wrong is astounding. Imagine doubling down when people are trying to correct you. I love the fact that you think you're never in the wrong, especially after causing a public disturbance in my service announcements channel. Also, do you not even hear yourself? Here's the part that really pissed me off and made me take great offense. Okay, fuck you on that last part. Fucking asshole making 19 bucks an hour taking care of your mom. For context, in May of 2024, I got a remote job where I'm getting paid $19.50 an hour to take care of my mother, who is an ex-cancer patient who hasn't been able to work since August of 2023. I took extreme offense at this comment because my mother could have nearly died from lymphoma. The fact that Blake chose to throw shade at me for this infuriates me to no end. I find that beyond disrespectful, offensive, and insulting. Also, imagine shaming me for having said job. I told you what he said, not what I personally believe. If you ask me, I'm all in favor of equal opportunity employment. You later communicated with me that you only said that because you were jealous that I had a job and you didn't. I understand that, but guess what? Your jealousy is still not an excuse to justify what you said to me. And here's this. I deserve to work more than you. I am 22 years old. Yeah, and you're 22 years old and you're acting like this. I'm gonna go off on an angry rant here. Remember the quote-unquote struggle Olympics shit that you were pulling on Twitter last year? That's literally what you're doing right now. I'm literally a college student who's been looking for a job for years since high school. And at no point did I say that you don't deserve to work. We all do, but just look at yourself. For the entire year and a quarter that I've known you, you've shown me that you're a gifted person who knows a lot more than I do. However, you've had every opportunity to try putting your skills and knowledge to good use, but instead, you'd rather keep wasting your time bitching and whining about how everyone is out to get you and blaming everyone else except yourself for your own actions. Congratulations, Blake. You have proven to me and everyone else that you are really good at making excuses. You're gonna do just fine when the real world hits you. I didn't even say anything bad about your mom either. I'm just saying if you make 19 bucks an hour, that's $6 higher than minimum wage here. Either way, I still wish you didn't bring it up into the conversation when it had absolutely nothing to do with the main argument. The conversation continues as follows. Keep looking at these images and pause to read it if you'd like to. Also, this last one here. Jesus Christ, man. At no point did I say that you don't have the right to be angry and upset when someone says something that upsets and offends you. You do. Everyone does. I'm just saying that your reaction and response, including attacking my friends, especially those who did nothing wrong, wasn't the right way of going about it. I don't know, man. It ain't fair how my literal partner does not understand how much it hurts to be misgendered and in a top spot because he's against me saying kill yourself to the person that hurt me. Meanwhile, we have this nice, amazing girl not saying anything like that to me. I wish I had a partner like her. He's just against it because he's his stupid fucking friend still for some reason. Number one, I do understand how it feels to be misgendered. But guess what? You're not gonna find me going out on a fucking rampage because of it. You have every right to be upset and angry and hurt about feeling misgendered. You have every right to feel upset about that. But guess what? It still doesn't justify or excuse the way you're choosing to go on about it. And number two, once again, the reason why I was still friends with him was because he was one of the few people in my community who still had some common sense. And no, don't jump to straw man arguments and refer to my definition of his common sense as his misguided takes about non-binary people. I was literally so close to giving up on the conversation completely. And then Blake's like, yes, I understand your point about it being a bad thing to say. But again, the man said something that really hurt my heart and soul. Yeah, I understand that. And saying kill yourself is how I defend myself against those types of people pretty much. Yes, but it's the wrong way of having a defense or coping mechanism. Especially if your opponent's takes are poorly educated and misguided. Also, the more I read into the screenshot, number one, what I'm doing is wrong. I know it's wrong, but I'm doing it anyway. Number two, people who think awful things do not deserve life is one of the only few statements that I can agree with you about to a certain extent. The conversation continues from this point. Things calmed down again after that, but I was still a little bit heated. The conversation shifted towards religion and politics and stuff. Blake and I had a bit of a talk shortly after, and then we both apologized to each other. However, what I had a problem with was when Blake started becoming a control freak and trying to take over Gemma's server by adding new rules without Gemma's consent. However, Gemma, ever the person who will do anything for the sake of making his partner happy, gave in to Blake's demands, much to the chagrin of everyone else. And then look at this shit. So according to you, we shouldn't be allowed to discuss news and current events? How else are we going to keep up to date with what's going on in the world? Did you think about that at all? And then there's also this. How is that offensive at all? Explain that to me. This is Blake trying to ban things for the sake of banning them simply because he doesn't like them. Similar to what Rosina Head did. Hell, Blake admitted in a call during June that he said that he would delete any messages in that server that don't agree with him. Where he said something along the lines of, if I don't like it, it's getting deleted. I don't care. I can't even begin to describe it, but it pisses me off that Gemma allowed Blake to have the final say over everything in the server that he owns. He literally tried to turn Gemma's server into some sort of dictatorship regime under his quote-unquote leadership. Hell, we had another conversation about this in another server. Pause to read these screenshots if you would like to, because this shit is a fucking doozy. However, I want you to pay close attention to this screenshot though, because Blue Midnight explains it best, where he says, and I quote, because if he keeps using the quote-unquote I'm uncomfortable and I don't like this and it should be banned card, then he could be more damaged than good. Pulling the quote I'm uncomfortable with this and I don't like it, therefore it should be banned card is exactly how I would describe it, because that's literally it right there. Blake, what the fuck were you thinking? This was gonna go nowhere. I'm gonna tell you the same thing that I told Rosina Head. Not only have you shown that you cannot handle criticism or community feedback, but you've also shown pure incompetence as a leader of any community. A leader must not be self-obsessed, discriminatory, or have even the slightest possibility of abusing their power for their own gain. You should have searched for advice from the community on many decisions instead of personally taking matters into your own hands. Nothing happened in July or August, apart from a minor incident where he snapped at Isaiah, a non-binary person, over his poor phrasing of what he was trying to say about people who use xenogenders. Keep in mind, Isaiah is not a native English speaker. He took this situation quite personally despite Blake apologizing. Once again, pause to read these screenshots if you would like to. There was also a minor incident where he snapped at me over something small when he first entered the newly founded Rhapsody Republic. But he did apologize shortly after. Nothing else happened between me and Blake until September. Fast forward to September 5th, 2024. It was a normal Thursday night. I got back home from the first week of college. I was sitting in my office, minding my own business, and watching that night's episode of my favorite wrestling show, TNA Impact, when I got a phone call from Blake. He pretty much called me to bitch and whine about the possible cancellation of the MLP franchise thanks to Hasbro. He took his anger out on me during that call, saying shit like, this is all your fucking fault. All because I personally didn't like G5 of MLP. There was an article talking about it, but I didn't believe anything was confirmed yet because at the time it was all just rumors and speculation. I tried explaining that to him, but then he clapped right back at me and called me a retard. Remember when Blake threw a whole temper tantrum in June over one of my autistic friends using that word and then tried to ban the usage of that word in Gemma's server despite the majority of members in his server being autistic? That shit no longer has merit because I'm seeing the hypocrisy and double standards here. Blake was literally holding people up to standards that he personally refuses to live up to. It's basically the quote-unquote rules for thee but not for me mentality. I stand strong in my belief that if you don't abide by your own values, I see no reason to abide by your values. Blake apologized shortly afterwards and then went on a crying fit. I was way past uncomfortable and nearing my breaking point. Remember when I said that Blake shows absolute disregard and disrespect for other people's opinions? I wasn't kidding. He literally shits on MLP fans for being only G4 fans and not liking G1, G2, G3, G3.5, and G5. Hell, he literally got into an argument with Lunaris because he also didn't like G5. Jesus fucking Christ, man. It only gets worse after September 21st. I will be discussing that situation and its aftermath in full detail in the next chapter. Get ready. On the evening of September 21st, 2024, Blake went on the biggest rampage in the history of the community. Here's a bit of backstory. During a phone call that Blake and I had during the night before on September 20th, Blake told me in conversation that he had a family member who was a Mexican, much to my surprise since I knew nothing about this at first. I couldn't resist the urge to make a lighthearted, non-offensive joke about Donald Trump and Mexicans. Blake went apeshit immediately after. Despite the fact that I literally apologized, Blake continued going into full tantrum mode, where he was talking about kicking me out of the poly again. Once again, see the February fight for reference purposes. He then proceeded to do self-harm on his leg, and he pulled the same shit of sending unsolicited self-harm pics to people. This time, he sent that picture to me. I'm not gonna show the image in this video for very obvious reasons. The shouting match between me and Blake over the phone lasted for 5 fucking hours. It ended around 4 AM. After a calming point in the conversation, we both apologized to each other. I barely got a decent amount of sleep that night. Now it's time for the story of Blake's biggest rampage in the community's history. On the evening of September 21st, 2024, I was made aware of a video on YouTube about a MAGA/Trump supporter rally taking place in Westchester County, which is the area I live in, specifically Yonkers. However, the rally didn't take place in Yonkers. It took place in nearby White Plains. I shared the video in Gemma's server while saying, I don't feel safe as a Westchester County resident anymore. Blake decided to forget all about the apology from the night before and start shit with me again. He responded by telling me, I hope you get hurt by the Trumpies, lol. Remember what I was saying before about how it shouldn't be considered mandatory to support the LGBT community? Yeah, Blake did not take this well either, especially on the account that he literally does not have the mental or emotional capacity for listening to reason. Blake believes that it should be mandatory for people to support the LGBT community, despite the fact that I've told him multiple times that the you're either with us or against us mentality isn't helping the community's cause. It's harming it. I told him that there is a difference between having a neutral stance on the LGBT community and having an opposition to the LGBT community. Contrary to belief, they are not the same. But of course, Blake has to act like the moral police around here and act like the LGBT community is not allowed to be criticized or questioned. He doubled down on his radical mentality, thinking that it's okay to use force to get people to agree with him. There were screenshots of this incident, but they were never archived in time, and the ones that were posted in the server got deleted. And here's the reason why. Daphne joined the conversation, and ever the positive person she is, talked about how she has gay uncles in her family and she's been very supportive of them. Blake's response left me shaking with rage. He said something that made me want to do this to him.
This is the real me! Oh my god!
He said, and I quote, okay, hope your faggy uncles die too. It's ironic that this fucking piss baby who threw a tantrum about the word retarded is himself using slurs to refer to other people. Once again, rules for thee, but not for me. And I kid you not when I tell you that this whole incident actually made Daphne cry. Taking out your anger on me is one thing, but taking it out on my friends, even though they did nothing wrong, and calling their family members fags, and wishing death on them is another. Blake tried to get rid of evidence by DFEing. And by the way, DFE is an acronym that stands for delete fucking everything. Blake tried to get rid of evidence by DFEing in an attempt to run away from accountability. He wanted to just move on and expected to suffer no consequences for what he did. He tried to escape this situation like a child. You see these images? This is evidence of Blake using bots to delete his messages in order to hide any and all evidence and absolve himself of any accountability whatsoever. He tried to force everyone to move on and change the subject, but I wasn't having it. You don't just wish death on another person's family, call them fags, and then expect to get away with it. Blake also decided to abuse his power again by banning Blue Midnight without Gemma's permission, simply because he doesn't like him. I revoked his unconstitutional ban shortly afterwards. Blake, people were trying to calmly explain to you that it's okay to have different beliefs, but you obviously refuse to listen. Also, imagine telling your own friends, the ones who stood by you when you were at your lowest points, to kill themselves. All because they're telling you the opposite of what you want to hear. Ungrateful, excrement-spewing, pathetic waste of a used condom. Even after that screenshot, he tried DFEing again. Nah man, nah. We don't move on from shit on your terms, child. We move on when I say we move on. I know you have better things to do with your pathetic life. It will fucking wait. Okay, Mr. It's fucked up to support LGBT people, taking screenshots and shit even though what you said was wrong too. Number one, at no point did I say that it's quote-unquote fucked up to support LGBT people. All I said is that it shouldn't be mandatory to support the community because everyone has different beliefs. Clearly your reading comprehension has failed you because it's non-existent. Number two, how am I in the wrong for advocating for the right to be free, independent thinkers? Number three, how is anything I said any more condemning than wishing death on an innocent person's gay family members? Do you lack self-awareness or are you just fucking brain dead? Choose a struggle. As for this next screenshot here, straw man argument. Your opinion is invalid. Next! The conversation continues from this point forward, and then Blake responds by saying, "Quit acting like I'm crazy for wanting support as a trans man, please." No one fucking said that. We're trying to get you to take the dicks out of your fucking eyes! Wake up and realize that you were entirely in the wrong for your approach. No one in my family supports me, so I have to force them. Your personal problems are not an excuse to take them out on everyone else. The world doesn't revolve around you, but based on the fact that you think it's okay to force people to believe in what you believe in, you think it should, and it does. You just have it in that thin-skinned head of yours that you're the supreme moral authority on everything in this world. It's basically the gospel according to Blake. Jesus fucking Christ, I can't stand you. And then look at this screenshot here. Here's a fun drinking game. Take a shot every time Blake keeps deliberately twisting my words because he only hears what he wants to hear. Shut up. I think if you were smart, you'd take your own advice before I smack you upside your fucking head. Nah, they all flocked here to tell me why I'm wrong because, you know, no one ever wants to listen to me, so I resort to this shit. Imagine believing that you're not in the wrong for how you conducted yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. Your long-standing apathy towards the impact of your actions infuriates me to an extreme extent. Number two, no one ever wants to listen to me, so I resort to this shit. Once again, cognitive dissonance. What I'm doing is wrong, I know it's wrong, but I'm doing it anyway. Number three, once again, you're fucking 22. Do I need to explain to you how fucking embarrassing it is that you act like this at your age? I didn't say that. It's not good that we gotta resort to bad stuff. So you know that. You had every opportunity to try and correct that behavior, but you flagrantly chose not to. Look at you putting words in my mouth now. It's bad I gotta do it, but fuck, everyone just goes against me. It's not nice when you're the one having words put in your mouth, is it? Don't try and act like the victim now, son. You were doing it to me before. Why are you crying about it now? The conversation continues. And in this screenshot, Blake says, I have good intent, but yet I'm always treated like I don't. The reason why that is because of your actions, especially trying to force people to believe in the things you believe in, defecting to pointless argumentum ad hominem attacks and pointless non sequiturs, and threatening, wishing death on, and telling people to kill themselves for disagreeing with you, and bullying people into supporting the LGBT community. People like you have actively disgraced said community, and you've officially cemented yourself as a fucking filthy far-left SJW liberal. You've proven the point of MAGA Republicans time and time again. I hope you understand that you are just as big a part of the reason why MAGA hates the LGBT movement as anything else. I was hoping that I would never encounter someone in the LGBT community who behaves like this, because I've been told that they don't act like this and that they're all very understanding people. Boy, was I wrong. Blake was one of many bad apples that spoiled the bunch. His extremely defensive, entitled, irrational, and histrionic behavior is a testament to why I sometimes feel like I cannot defend this community. Maybe I wouldn't resort to doing bad things if I didn't feel like I was cornered, which is how you make me feel like during this shit like this. 2 words: victim complex. You weren't cornered. You were told multiple times to stop, and yet you continued on with your angry baby rage. Even to the point of saying some of the most indefensible and inexcusable and abhorrent things possible. This is unacceptable and asinine on every level. And also, to respond to this screenshot here, I emphasize that we can still fight against homophobia without resorting to throwing insults, name-calling, argumentum ad hominem, death threats, and slurs at people just because they disagree with us. I'm saying that the LGBT community needs to be more rational and understanding, especially when it comes to disagreeing, not opposing, but disagreeing viewpoints. I have a saying for things like this. It goes like this: respect is like a bisexual. It goes both ways. That's a trademark quote from me, by the way. We can't just keep painting people with a broad brush. There's also this. To be fair, you did wish death on multiple people and call them slurs because he was pissed. Not a fucking excuse for his actions, dude. Oh, by the way, I'll be dealing with you and Gemma later when this chapter is finished. As for this image here, Blake is like, why do you ask your goons to dogpile me and fight? Goons? I don't ask them to join the conversation, they just do. And no, I'm not asking for anyone to suck my dick. What I'm asking for is the bare fucking minimum. What I'm asking for is a little bit of respect. Something that you clearly know nothing about. The conversation reaches a calming point. And here's the part where Blake actually apologizes to everyone after all the chaos. And this is the part where I responded. He took a leave of absence after all of this went down. I did a bit of deep thinking and had a moment of clarity. This was the part where I'd had enough and I broke up with Blake. You may think that this decision was mutual, but to tell you the truth, it wasn't. I tried to break away from him for months, but he just wouldn't fucking leave me alone. I needed some time to process this entire series of events. After doing some long reflection, it all came to this for me. It went from a friendship to a developmental stage. It went from a developmental stage to a healthy relationship. It went from a healthy relationship to a dysfunctional relationship. It went from a dysfunctional relationship to a complicated relationship. It went from a complicated relationship to an abusive relationship. It went from an abusive relationship to a loveless relationship. It went from a loveless relationship to an inevitable breakup. It went from an inevitable breakup to post-breakup guilt. It went from post-breakup guilt to reflection. It went from reflection to realization. It went from realization to anger. It went from anger to hatred. Hatred is the current stage, and soon it will evolve into contempt, and from there, contempt into disgust. You have no fucking idea how taxing it was on my psyche to continue staying in that relationship. The decision to break up with him felt so liberating. I'm finally at peace. I'm finally in a perfect state of serenity. The staff team and I were deliberating on what we should do after Blake's departure. We came to a general consensus that we should keep him on the server's do not invite list. We basically had a coup d'etat against Blake. After all, we were overthrowing a tyrant. The staff conversation regarding Blake's inexcusable conduct continued for days and days and days. As for this image here, I heavily agree with Nostalgia Works' take here when he says, and I quote, "How many times has Blake apologized for shit and then shown afterwards that he didn't learn?" That's literally it right there. Blake's apologies were never sincere. He only apologized just to get out of trouble. Later during the week, Blake wouldn't stop bitching at me about how quote-unquote lonely he felt because of the consequences of his actions. As for this image here, this was a reluctant decision that I made in order to pacify Blake. A decision that was mostly met with skepticism and cynicism. and understandably so. Also, Blake has fucked me up so much that I ended up developing a love/hate relationship with him. Also, we were working very hard to undo the changes that were enacted during Blake's tenure. It took us a really long time to fix everything that was broken. Also, here's the part where Linares had to give Gemma some very good advice, based on personal experiences, on how to handle Blake. Pause to read it if you would like to. And if I'm being completely honest here, I'm happy that I left that relationship and never looked back. On October 3rd, 2023, Blake once again did not take the consequences of his actions well. He tried to force his way back into Gemma's server despite public outcry from both the staff team and several members of the community. You see this here? Isaiah actually agrees with me. Blake, you know you're fucked when even a non-binary person, the gender identity that you identify as and the gender identity that you've been performatively championing for, knows that you're in the wrong here. On October 6, 2024, Blake continued his rampage in trying to get back into Gemma's server, which unfortunately succeeded, much to everyone's chagrin. As for this screenshot here, I'm just glad that this didn't go into effect, because if it did, Gemma would have immediately lost my respect for bringing him back to the staff team despite public backlash and outcry. Either way, watch the chaos continue. Blake returned that day against everyone's wishes, and immediately when he returned that day, he unsurprisingly bombarded my DMs, taunting me for wanting to keep him out of the server. Once again, more childish behavior. He later backtracked though. Blake's selfish actions damn near detrimentally impacted Gemma's standing in the community. Linares left the server shortly after Blake's return. A lot of phone calls between me and Blake happened during late September and early October. And one thing that stuck out to me is that Blake doubled down on threatening Blue Midnight with violence. Even gave me that boo-hoo, yeah I threatened him, so what attitude. I was internally shaking with rage, but I only tolerated it just for the sake of my sanity. There were a few things I forgot to mention here, and I'm going to talk about it before we get to the incident that really scarred me for life. For starters, on September 20th, 2023, Blake scammed Nostalgia Works out of $239.71 when he asked him for money to buy a plane ticket to come see me in New York. I originally consented to the idea of him coming to meet me in person, which in retrospect was a fucking horrible idea for reasons I will explain later. Blake could have used that money for something useful, but instead he squandered all that money on drugs, alcohol, and weed. Words fail to express the severe disappointment I have in him for that. So, I guess it's safe to add financial fraud to his rap sheet as well. Another minor incident that happened with Blake and I when we first started dating was that he snapped at me because I didn't feel comfortable revealing my real name at the time. Given the fact that I've had to deal with people trying to dox me and use personal information against me for nefarious purposes and malicious intent. This will be the only time I will feel comfortable revealing my real name, since I'm an adult who is currently making his way towards the workforce. For those watching this video, my name is Jaden. That's spelled Jaden. However, I'd much rather be addressed and referred to by my pseudonyms, including Rebel Shadow, as I am more commonly known as, or my other pseudonyms Diamond, Shadow, and Rhapsody. Either way, that was the first ever fuck you for wanting your boundaries to be respected moment in our relationship. There was also another fuck you for wanting your boundaries to be respected moment in our relationship where he was pretty much acting like I should prioritize him over everything else. Just look at these screenshots. It's really fucking frustrating to look back at. There is so much guilt tripping and so many straw man arguments that I've lost count at this point. Get ready to witness the part where Blake gets really possessive, up to the point where he threatens to beat up Lunaris. Make that 2 minors he's threatened with violence. I've thrown so many fits to try to get him to talk to me, and everyone else has acted like I'm the bad guy and that I hurt him. I don't even know where to start with this sentence. Number 1, did you really think that throwing petty little hissy fits and temper tantrums was really gonna get me to want to talk to you more? No! If anything, you've made me want to talk to you less. Also, thank you for admitting that you're mentally 5 years old despite literally being 22. Fucking Christ. Number 2, you did hurt me. How the fuck do you not see that you were in the wrong for what you've done to me? There was also a situation where Blake started drinking again after I told him to stop several times. One time during a phone call, he pissed himself and started fussing about it like a little kid. That made me extremely uncomfortable because I was internally cringing. Also, it's funny how 1 minute he's regretful for his drunk actions and the next minute he has a lack of self-awareness. Take a look at these screenshots here. It's obvious that Blake is just bullshitting here, because he always does this. He does this every single fucking time. And the fact that he's unable to see where he went wrong is astounding. Also, Blake, if you're watching this, I'm gonna throw in a Taylor Swift reference here in response to you. It's you. Hi, you're the problem. It's you. I found some advice that Blake should really consider taking, but knowing him, he probably won't because he's incapable of acting rationally. And this is some advice from John Cena of all people, where he says, and I quote, "Never ignore your emotions. Feel and recognize them all, but never act purely based on them. If you feel a certain way, ask why. You might save a misunderstanding or two." And the conversation continues from that point. Now let's talk about the incident that left me scarred for life. On Tuesday, October 8th, 2024, after I got done watching WWE NXT, I got a phone call from Blake in what would be the most unprecedented situation I've ever been involved in. When I picked up the phone call, I was greeted with a bunch of yelling, screaming, and cursing in the background. I was confused, but then as the shouting match proceeded, I found out that it was back and forth quarreling between Blake and his racist dad. Blake called me with the intent of expecting me to back him up in his corner during that fight. I confronted his dad during that phone call, and surprise, surprise, Blake wasn't lying. His dad was racist to the core. The guy called me a dumbass, and to no one's surprise, he called me a fucking nigger. I'm not kidding. The guy actually called me a fucking nigger. If I recall correctly, he did the same thing to Gemma as well. Blake had every right to be upset and angry about everything, but here's the part where Blake did something really fucking stupid. He picked up a chair and threw it at his dad, and it hurt him to the point where his skull began to crack a little bit, and his forehead was bleeding. This incident proved how violent of a person Blake really was. It made me feel glad I didn't go to Missouri to see him, because if I rubbed him the wrong way even once, plus given the fact that he's done self-harming multiple times, he would have grabbed a knife and chased after me with it. That's why I was fearing for my life. Not long after, police were called. I was still on the line when this went down, and apparently this wasn't the first time the police came to his house. Even the police know about Blake's inability to take accountability for his actions. He was arrested and taken into custody. As soon as I heard the words, "You're under arrest and you have the right to remain silent," my heart dropped. I was left in total shock and my face was as white as a wall. Police asked me to testify and I did. That was the first time I had ever witnessed someone close to me getting arrested. And it was the first time I had ever had to testify to the police about anything for that matter. He spent an entire day, 24 hours in jail for domestic violence, assault and battery, and aggravated assault. I was horrified and at the same time internally facepalming. Blake had every right to be angry about his dad. But here's the thing, when we had conversations about how abusive his family was, I made jokes about wanting to beat his dad up. I didn't actually do it. Holy crap! So far, Blake's rap sheet consists of financial fraud, threats of violence towards minors, guilt tripping and manipulation, domestic violence, death wishing, abuse of power, absolute disregard for people's feelings and boundaries, consistent denial of accountability, attempted infidelity, LGBT elitism, and attempted forced sexual advances. After this, I decided that enough was enough. So I did the right thing for my mental health and never looked back. I'm gonna read this response to you guys. I said, and I quote, "Perhaps I haven't been entirely honest with you. Look, Blake, there's no easy way to say this, but I've had enough. Enough of the constant drama that you kept causing, the insincere apologies, and the excuses you used to be a fucking asshole to me and my friends. Just because you've been through a lot in your past, some of it is primarily because of your poor choices, doesn't give you the right to be an absolute piece of rhino shit. I'm beginning to understand why people have ended their friendships with you last year, including people like Fortune Star and Empress Blazy Mix. You have made me extremely uncomfortable on multiple occasions all this time, and I've always been afraid to speak up about it, but now I'm finally doing it. You sent death threats to people who didn't deserve it, simply because they disagreed with your opinions or because they didn't like what you liked. For example, you literally attacked Sean for hating MLPG3. You threatened violence against some of my friends, a few of which were minors. And in Blue Midnight's case, you made it emphatically clear that you didn't give a fuck. You sent your unsolicited self-harm pics to people, especially me. You called people slurs even though you ironically said that you hate slurs. You called me retarded and you called Daphne's gay uncles fags. You abused your power in Gemma's server several times and banned people without his consent, including Daphne, who did nothing wrong because you didn't like them. You said that you would discriminate against every person that came from my server and tell them to kill themselves. You got into fights with me multiple times and took your anger out on everyone and imposed your will. You wished death on Daphne's uncles for no reason. You got pissy with me because I wanted my boundaries to be respected, and you threw multiple temper tantrums and used me as your punching bag. And when confronted by everyone who was trying to either calm you down or hold you accountable for your actions, you would always act like you're the victim when the real victims are everyone whom you've ever encountered. I was willing to come to your defense and try to help you after we broke up, but that situation where you got arrested for domestic violence and the time when you started drinking again after I told you so many times to stop, this was the last straw for me. I tried, but I just can't do it. I cannot in good conscience tolerate this anymore. You're definitely a lost cause. The fact that you had the audacity to throw shade at me for having a job where I'm taking care of my mom, who by the way is an ex-cancer patient. And the fact that you wish death on Daphne's gay uncles for no reason. It finally made me realize how much of an absolute cunt you are. I hope I die an early death just so you'll never put me through this kind of shit ever again. You're a fucking sadist. I will no longer be blind to all the constant harm you do. You are immature, rude, heartless, disrespectful, ungrateful, mean, insensitive, inconsiderate, and selfish. And yes, I am a victim of dealing with people like you. I'm not dealing with this anymore. Your incessant temper tantrums and rage fits are just as big a part of the reason why I don't read my DMs anymore. Try keeping your friends when you still have this attitude. Get some other dumbass to help you out because I'm not gonna keep killing myself every single fucking day over this shit. It's over. Don't ever contact me again. The aftermath of this situation is ongoing. Here are a few more images. Pause to read them if you would like to. As you can clearly see, I was way past annoyed. And yes, Blake actually did say that he was going to apologize to everyone else who he hurt, except for me. Imagine refusing to apologize to the individual who you've abused, mistreated, and bullied during his relationship with you for over a fucking year. I'm out for blood. There's also this screenshot here, thinking that I'm not capable of having a normal ass conversation. Nigga, you literally proved that you aren't because you're blind to morality and you're incapable of listening to reason. You fucking brain dead burden to everyone around you. It only gets worse by the second. Linares, just like everyone else, gave up on trying to help Blake, and understandably so. Blake is a sociopath and he's beyond our scope to help at this point. Also, imagine saying this to someone who you've been trying to get back together with for so long. That is fucked. To call Blake a yandere would be a fucking understatement. We are way past that point. He has become a literal cancer. He's just a malignant tumor that just won't fucking go away. Also, there's this. This coming from the same person who wanted to ban the usage of the word retarded back in June. Once again, rules for thee, but not for me. Fucking hypocrite. Also, read this part where he's like, I did not consent to breaking up with you. The only thing I can translate from that is basically him saying, you're my property and you are still with me whether you like it or not. Just look at these images too. This one is really lighting a fire under my ass. This time he's using his autism as an excuse to justify his actions. Blasphemy! 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 Also, if this is not an egregious example of Blake forcing Gemma to maintain a relationship with him, then I don't know what the fuck is. This is way more than him being overtly possessive. This is proof that he's a complete fucking psycho. Also, excuse me, fucking what? You don't get trauma from a text over Discord. Blake, I can't believe I actually caught that out of your incessant angry rambling. This has to be a sick joke, right? You were the one who made fucking death threats towards people and threatened minors with violence among many other things. You don't get trauma from a text over Discord. Fuck you! Do you know why we don't let this kind of shit go? Do you know why we don't ever forgive or forget these kinds of things? It's because, contrary to what you believe, words hurt. Not like you give a shit, since you've shown blatant long-standing apathy towards people, especially those who you've hurt. Do you know why we don't ever forget shit like this? It's because these are morally reprehensible actions that need to be learned from and remembered. But these are actions that you refuse to learn from. Because believe it or not, this isn't the first time you've done this. You've done this so many fucking times I've lost count, and after the umpteenth time, I've had enough. This was the catalyst that made me want to confront Blake in another DM. The confrontation happened on the night of December 7, 2024. That night he told me and Gemma to kill ourselves, and he told me that the world would be better off if I just offed myself.
You know what? How about you kill yourself? You know what? That'd be great. If you just fucking offed yourself.
Why don't you take your own advice?
One of these days, I hope you get killed.
No, I hope you get, okay.
One of these days, I hope you're murdered.
I wish the same thing onto you. I wish the same thing onto you.
And this person still has the fucking audacity to think that he's still a good person. Oh really? Blake, can we talk just for 1 second? Does sending death threats to people who didn't deserve it simply because they disagree with your opinions or because they didn't like what you liked count as you being a good person? Does threatening violence against some of my friends, a few of which were minors, count as you being a good person? Does calling people slurs, even though you ironically said that you hated slurs, including calling me retarded and calling Daphne's uncles fags, count as you being a good person? Does abusing your power in the Republic of Azura server multiple times and banning people without Gemma's consent, including Daphne who did nothing wrong because you didn't like them, count as you being a good person? Does threatening to discriminate against every single person that came from my server and telling them to kill themselves count as you being a good person? Does getting into fights with me multiple times and taking your anger out on everyone and imposing your will count as you being a good person? Does wishing death on Daphne's uncles for no reason count as you being a good person? Does getting pissy with me because I wanted my boundaries to be respected count as you being a good person? Does committing domestic violence against your father count as you being a good person? Does throwing multiple temper tantrums and using me as your punching bag for over a fucking year count as you being a good person? How about the fact that when confronted by everyone who is trying to either calm you down or hold you accountable for your actions, you would always act like you're the victim when the real victims are everyone whom you've ever encountered? To answer this question, Blake, you are not a good person. If anything, you are the complete opposite of a good person. You are nowhere near a perfect citizen. Satan asks you for advice, and I'm glad that you are facing consequences for your actions because you are the living embodiment of evil. Just so we're clear, Blake, while I stand firmly against transphobia, the only good thing about those transphobic attacks against you is that all of them were happening specifically to you. When I held him accountable for his actions in that DM from December 7th, He went on a literal crying fit. I couldn't help but laugh internally when it first happened. Now I'm laughing audibly. I have audio footage of that conversation, and I'm gonna play it right now.
I'm not a terrible person, I swear to God, I'm not. I'm not a person. I'm not a terrible person, I swear to God, I'm not. I'm not a terrible person, I swear. Oh, I think I'm a terrible person. Ah!
Shut up! Oh my God, I don't care!
The day after that call, he went on a 55 message long crash out. Just watch the chaos. To summarize this thing, Blake was originally my friend, and when we first started dating, we initially had a healthy relationship. But over time, I've witnessed the red flags forming throughout the relationship, and after being on the receiving end of mental, verbal, and emotional abuse for so long, I quickly came to realize that he was a bad partner to me. Blake, if you're watching this right now, I'm not sorry about how I handled things. I warned you. I told you to stop, and this is what happened. In conclusion, Blake, you're a piece of shit, and I hope that the rest of your life goes absolutely nowhere. What you did to me and everyone else is inexcusable, and you have no place anywhere in this community. And I hope that when you do get a job and someone background checks you, all of this insurmountable evidence will pop up and it'll give them an instant reminder of how much of an absolutely shitty person you are. In the words of Jim Cornette, thank you, fuck you, bye. I'm done here.
Okay, this is going to take a lot from me. I'll try to get this done as fast as I can. I don't even know how I'm going to format this entire thing. This might get kind of graphic, so I'm sorry. I'm just trying to spill out my guts as fast as I can. I have a loose script here, but I'll probably ramble a lot for how emotional I've been. I'm not one to talk about drama or speak up about people, but I have to get this off my chest. This has been eating me for months, maybe even, I'd like even say a year. And I can say that I have never seen so many red flags in a person before. A 22-year-old. Blake, this ex-partner of Rhapsody, who I met a few days after I joined Ruby's server. I started to form a close bond with them, I guess you could say. And that server, I'm no longer active in that server anymore because I left a couple times because of how constant Blake was brought up, and I never thought I'd say I'd been so uncomfortable in a simple server before. This was because of the constant fighting that I witnessed, all the times that I've seen Blake randomly venting about their personal life. They would rant for hours. And I'm not saying that that's not okay, but it would just be so constant and they would just go so deep into it. They they vented about their abusive households, their siblings, and pretty much the abuse that they're constantly going through. And I know they've been through a lot. That will never excuse all of the things that they have done. Some of the things I still haven't processed to this very day. They made everything about themselves, all the times that they have vented, all of them about themselves. Blake has taken advantage of me, their friends, and their partner. I've been a witness to the constant bullying and abuse that Blake has put upon people and myself, primarily their partners, and if they would just constantly vent in a Discord server channels at any random second they possibly could. Any random channel, general chat, venting channel was filled to the brim with constant arguing for hours. I saw all of it happen, but I said nothing because I knew I would just make it worse. It wouldn't help anything. It would just last longer. The longest I can say that I've probably seen was last Christmas, which was like at least 4 hours long. And I tried checking up on that, and it was still going. It was still going on for hours. Even when I thought everything was over, oh, it's been an hour. I thought they would stop by now, but no, they would go on for hours. And on that Christmas day, and that server was filled with dread on that day, and it ruined pretty much my Christmas spirit, at least that time at day. And for all of that, I can't ever forgive them for all they have done. There have just been times where I tried opening up and speak about my personal opinions, thoughts, and all of that, and I still remember the times I was shut down for it. They just stooped beyond low at this point. Blake's actions still have not changed. As much as I have tried, even as recent as a few nights ago. And recently, I received a message from them on Discord, and I was scared to open it because they were so unpredictable about everything. And I opened it. All it was them guilt tripping me, gaslighting me, always venting in my DMs, telling me they hope I lose everything I love, guilt trip me about their relationship, which wasn't even any of my business. Threaten violence on me, times where they just start going off at me in DMs multiple times. And a lot of those times, I tried staying supportive because I still cared for Blake at that time. Didn't want to believe they were a bad person. I tried offering advice. I tried telling them therapy is a slow start. I tried everything. I know you're probably thinking I should have gave up since the beginning, but this lasted for months. During those months, I was still contemplating on what I should do. It was so much. I didn't know what to say because anytime that anyone would open up, Blake would just go off on them and guilt trip everyone, all the victims. That recent DM from them was when I finally snapped because I was furious. I was shaking. Looking back, I'm still traumatized, but also just Blake is very immature for a 22-year-old. I cannot sugarcoat it anymore. I didn't want to believe it, but that one message was when I finally gave up. It hurt me because I thought I could trust them. I thought I could give them another chance. I wish he wasn't such a fucking abusive piece of shit. All the times I thought they would change, they always lied. They constantly lied. Even when I thought they made progress, he showed none. I miss the fun and happy times I had with them.
As this video gets released, my next course of action is to pursue legal action and notify law enforcement. This video is nothing like my more positive content. I didn't want to censor myself as much as possible. Any censorship has just been done to protect the identities of the innocent victims, and to keep them as anonymous as possible. I wanted to talk about Blake's actions as succinctly as I possibly could. In the months to come, I will be figuring out exactly how to pursue civil and criminal charges against Blake Romano, with any and all legal recourse that I possibly can. Blake needs to pay for everything that he's done. If this was just small internet drama, I wouldn't even need to make this video. However, all I ask is for everyone to spread as much awareness about this as possible. Blake is not a joke. He's not just a throbbing pain in my ass anymore. He has hurt so many people, my closest friends, so many people who I didn't even know were suffering in such terrible ways. Members of my community were also severely impacted. I'm going to try and do everything I can to help Blake's many victims. I know I've made drama videos before as part of the Rhapsody Responds series, but I'm not a drama guy. I don't like making videos like this. I only make this type of content sporadically and only when necessary. And I will say this, Blake's continued existence on the internet does make me feel like shit. To say that it makes me feel guilty is an understatement. I feel actually and actively stupid that I may have given Blake any sort of relevance by bringing him into my community. This isn't something that I wanted to do, but unfortunately after 16 months, Blake forced my hand to do this. And here's the thing, he would have completely avoided attention from the world around him if he didn't fuck up so bad during the June 30th, 2023 Christmas Day 2023, February 23rd, 2024, and September 22nd, 2024 incidents. But even from my distance to the June 30th, 2023 incident, I started learning more and more about what kind of person Blake really was. I couldn't sit on my hands anymore. I had to do something. I had to compile all of this together because I wanted all of this shit to come to a stop. And as time went on, it seemed that no one else had the full picture on exactly who Blake Romano really is. And many of the people who did try to get involved ended up making things exponentially worse. And this is only partially related, but it needs to be said. A name that kept coming up over and over and over again during this whole fiasco was Rosina Head. Fuck Rosina Head. She is just as bad as Blake. The shit that she has done is something that I will never, ever, ever forgive. And if she or her butthurt white knights get close to me or any member of my community ever again, they are next to get a video like this. And I will find every measure I can to take legal action and notify law enforcement. I don't fucking care. But this isn't about Rosina Head anymore. This is about Blake. The things that he has done make me sick to my stomach. I was angry a lot during the production of this video. I even had to cry at times. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I haven't gotten a decent amount of sleep in a month. To the people who are possibly laughing at this situation, let me be very clear here. I don't find this funny. He can say as much stupid shit as he wants about me. I don't care. But I had no idea the depths of his depravity were this big. I can't believe that Blake is as stupid as he publicly displays. And my biggest fear about this whole situation is that Blake might not be as shameless as he lets on. This person that posts his unsolicited self-harm pics for the world to see admits that he did wrong publicly. He thinks that admitting to all of his wrongdoing somehow exonerates him. He expressed his sexual preferences and kinks right out in the open, including during those arguments from August 30th, 2023 and Christmas Day 2023, where he started a fight with me over my sexual preferences and boundaries, especially in an open and public channel where minors can see it. Does this person really have no shame? Or is there something even darker lurking in the shadows? I hope not. I'd like to sleep again tonight. I also hope it's clear why I had to make this video. And I hope and pray to God, Jesus, and every other divine power in the Christian religion that it'll be the last time I ever have to make a video like this. There are only two people that I need to call out and hold accountable during this whole ordeal. Number one, Gemma. Please don't take this as a stab in the back, because it's not. You're my friend and I've known you for 4 years, but this is the part where I have to hold you accountable. On October 10th, 2021, after the ousting of Dama, otherwise known as Connor Larimore, a notorious pedophile with a diaper fetish, who was also promoted to admin from August 19th, 2021 to his ousting on October 10th, 2021. Immediately after hitting on you and messing up the server's culture for the next 2 months, you made a promise to Nostalgia Works that your next partner would slowly work their way up to a staff position like everyone else. Fast forward to April 5th through June 8th, 2023. He reminded you of this multiple times in preparation for Blake's arrival. On July 10th, 2023, Blake threw a temper tantrum in response to a minor mood swing Nostalgia Works had when he was forced off meds by insurance bullshit. This is where you increased the strict staff limit from 9 to 11 people. Blake and I were given mod powers as members of the poly relationship he had with you and me. And then came August 14th, 2023. I got unbanned from Emily's server and returned to the admin team after a 1.5 year long absence. Blake threw a tantrum and he was placed above all the other admins for his quote-unquote safety. The truth was, he was never quote-unquote fearing for his safety. All he wanted was unrestricted executive power that he could use and abuse at any given time. And based on the fact that he was able to take his anger out on everyone else without consequence, it worked. He reveled in the fact that we were unable to do anything about his behavior. He took advantage of our powerlessness. He was a literal cry bully. He caused chaos and started banning people from your server without your permission, and when we'd had enough, we launched a coup d'etat against him. What I'm upset and disappointed in you for is your inaction during every situation that involved him. We were upset and angry that whenever we told you to actually do something about Blake's destructive behavior, you decided to ignore everyone else's complaints and advice and blatantly look the other way because you didn't want to risk Blake getting mad at you for taking action in situations where disciplinary action was warranted the most. And an even bigger spit in our faces was that sometimes there would be guilt tripping from you in all this, where you'd tell us stuff like, you guys are the reason why this fight happened. Or whenever Blake threatened to commit suicide like he always does, you'd say something along the lines of, you guys might actually be responsible for a suicide. We were upset that you continued to enable his destructive behavior despite public outcry. In a sense, this basically means that you were complicit in all of his destructive anger fits. You and I were basically pack mule boyfriends for Blake, but in my eyes, I don't even know how else to say it. He has completely emasculated you. And the reason why I say that is because, well, at one point, Nostalgia Works did describe you as a quote-unquote pushover, since you were willing to do anything for Blake, regardless of how morally objectionable it was. And when I found out the reason why you didn't do anything during these situations, up until right now, I genuinely did not think or realize that something like that could have been done in an act of genuine cowardice. The fact of the matter is, you made a promise to Nostalgia Works and you broke it. And all that has come from it was the server and community's reputation collapsing. In my eyes, if someone did this to me, this would be something that would cause them to immediately lose my respect. But since I am a forgiving Christian man and I view you as a brother to me, you will never lose my respect. And I beg everyone watching this video, please do not under any circumstances start attacking or trying to ostracize this guy. Number 2, Tosit/Dixodon. I like you, dude, but while I appreciate you trying to hold me accountable for some of the inexcusable shit I've said, I don't appreciate the fact that you had to screenshot an angry rant that I wrote about Blake and then leak it to your server. I had every right to express my emotions regarding him. I will admit, I shouldn't have written all that transphobic shit about him in that rant. It was all in the heat of the moment, especially a part of the rant where I said that I hoped he'd get sexually assaulted. Everyone kept passing it off as a quote-unquote threat when that's not a threat. I can't make someone get sexually assaulted. Me saying that I hope he does is not a threat, and I feel like people use that word very lightly without actually understanding what it means. So allow me to educate you. A threat is a statement that expresses a desire of intent to inflict harm onto someone in retribution for something that has been done or not done. The key words here are desire of intent. In order for something to be considered a threat, one must state that it is their desire of intent, which I did not do. At no point did I say that I was going to sexually assault Blake, nor would I even want to. I wouldn't even want to come close within 100-mile radius of that thing. But then again, no one cares anyway, since everyone has pretty much decided that they're just going to do anything but listen to me. Not helping is the fact that one of your friends launched a cancel culture campaign against me and got some of my closest friends involved. So now people are sympathizing with my abuser. He may have deleted all that stuff, but the fact remains, I will never forgive him for what he has done to me. And when I wanted to confront him, he tried running away from me like a coward. But sure, I should just let this guy off the hook scot-free because he's 15, right? Once again, being a minor does not excuse you from taking accountability for your actions, and I will tolerate no opinion of the contrary. But I'm pretty sure you're going to disagree with me since you said to Keegan during a confrontation with him recently, and I quote, "You think minors and adults have the same amount of responsibility." So according to your logic, someone should just get away with really doing something wrong to someone and suffering no consequences for it simply because of the fact that said person's under 18. And apparently I'm not allowed to get angry, but other people are allowed to do things that they know will make me angry and then make excuses for it. Good to know. This community is so fucking morally bankrupt. I've just about had enough of this fucking hug box. Plus, when asked why you did this, you admitted it all under the excuse of, I hate transphobia. Once again, I understand that, but guess what? It still doesn't excuse what you've done to me. I hope you understand that you were complicit in ruining my life because of all of this. However, my eyes are wide open now because those people who still refuse to make up with me after I've explained myself are nothing more than fake friends. And to those people, I want to say something right now. You people are just as big a part of the reason why I'm quitting the Democratic Party and returning to the Republican Party as anything else. This is exactly why I fucking hate this community. It's incapable of listening to reason and instead only thinks with their feelings and allows bullshit to propagate. Dixa, I understand that you apologize for putting me through all this, but if I'm being completely honest with you, man, I don't think there will ever be a time or a place where I will ever be able to forgive you for all the irreversible damage that has been done to my life. As for you, Blake, I say this to you right now. I am going to pursue every legal and criminal channel against you available. I do not care if I bleed myself dry or use everything I've got. You have crossed the line. I know that I'll never get through to you. I know that I'll never change you. I know that I'll never convince you that you did anything wrong. I know that. You will never change. You will always be this broken mess heap of a person. But I will do whatever I can to try to help the people who you've hurt and also stop more people from getting hurt by you. And I'm not letting you run. Blake, I have archived everything. Your entire internet presence, your entire digital footprint has been preserved. Your real name, your address, and all of your personal information has been archived. And it will become public information after this video is released. You have nowhere to run and you have nowhere to hide. You don't get trauma from attacks over Discord. Yeah, let's see if that's a good legal defense, faggot. I'm pretty sure you've forgotten this, but when the cops read you your Miranda rights when you get arrested, they say anything that you say can and will be used against you in court. If you try jumping to a new account or a new username, I will find it, I will identify it, and I will put it on blast publicly. You are not escaping this, Blake Romano. This is who you are. This is your presence on the internet, forever. As long as there is a heart beating inside of me and as long as there is breath inside my body. To those watching this video, please spread awareness about this as much as possible. I want as many people as possible to know who Blake is and what he has done. If you've had any personal experiences with him, please contact me on Twitter, Discord, or Instagram under the handle @RhapsodyShadow. That is @RhapsodyShadow. I'm leaving my social media DMs open for this because you can tell how serious of a situation this is for me. With that being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening to my story. This wasn't easy for me to tell you. I will be hosting a live stream on January 1st to try to ease all the tension from this situation and possibly answer any questions that you guys might have. And I'll see you all then. This has been your host, Rhapsody, and I'll see you guys next time. Until next time, please take care of yourselves and each other and stay blessed. Regularly scheduled programming will resume shortly.